I'd like to welcome you all to the regular meeting of the Paradise Irrigation District Board of Directors, Wednesday, September 18th at 6:30 p.m. Could you please have a roll call, please? Here.
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 I'll get that on as soon as it's good fun.
Thank you. And I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the consent calendar.
I move we approve the consent calendar.
I second that.
Anything anybody would like taken off? I think it was pretty straightforward on this one.
I have some questions about it, but
Yeah, that's
See,
comments. I have some comments
questions,
about
too.
the staff report, but
On the
we
staff
don't need to
report?
take it off.
Okay, you
We
won't
can
be taking
vote on
off.
it and then
Okay.
after discuss it.
Okay. All in favor of approving the consent calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
I said no,
He said no.
No, no. Oh, I thought you meant no.
because I wanted to get some comments in before it was approved.
Okay, is it, well, I thought it was just a question. I'm sorry.
Well, you should have asked for it to be removed.
No, it's,
You know, that's how you do it.
oh, is it?
I thought you just had questions.
Yeah, I have questions.
We're gonna make comments,
Yeah, you can make comments. We're going to do that.
even though it's been approved.
We'll move on to public participation.
Wait, we want to make the comments.
Oh, I thought you did that after public participation. No? We can do it
I
now.
think it'd be better to do it
Let's do the
now.
questions now, then. Go ahead, Larry. Let's do yours
Okay,
first.
one question was on the minutes, when Bill abstained from one of the 2B, it wasn't noted on the minutes, and I was just curious, should
Yes,
that
it
be
was.
noted? It wasn't noted in the list of the votes.
Not in the votes, but it was.
It was noted up in the same, but it wasn't, I was just wondering, because a lot of people just look and see who voted, and it looks like he approved everything on there, but he didn't. I didn't know what the protocol was on that.
Well, in his vote, as a whole, he voted in favor.
But he
It
had,
was only on that one.
right,
That he had an abstention.
and I was just wondering if that should, are abstentions noted in the vote? You know, where it says ayes, noes,
Besides just the minutes themselves,
oh, okay, you don't do the abstentions in there. That was my question.
it's clear to
Right,
anyone that needs to know.
okay.
Is that it, Larry?
Yeah, that's all I have.
No, I didn't realize that. Thanks for bringing it up, Larry. I didn't vote for it.
No, you abstained
Yeah,
from
and then
one.
it says it passed 5-1.
Yeah, I know.
5-0.
That's the whole document, though, right?
Yeah, it's just a little misleading.
Yeah, exactly.
As
I
presented.
could clarify that.
I didn't know what the protocol was.
Will you correct that for us, Georgiana?
My comments were on capital improvement projects. iPad, I think it is, looks like it should be page 20. Yeah, page 20. And the thing is on the Clark Road District Facilities Corporate Yard, project 0901Y. And in the write-ups in here, the various reports has it all the way from being pretty much completed to not being, having more work ahead of it in the other part of the consent calendar. But this has it, at that time, at the end of August, I guess, we were 48% spent on the yard, right?
I'm not sure where that. I'll have to look into that a little further. I'm not sure if that's completely updated.
You're not sure you updated it?
It's well, that's coming from it's a database that's updating this. Let me look into that further, and I'll get that answer back to you on what the percentage completion is on that.
Okay. Then the next page, page 21, you'll probably get tired of me on this, but we installed 90 feet of pipe since January. And I don't think I have to comment on what my feelings are about that.
Do we count the pipe that is subbed in here?
It is contracted out?
Yeah,
Not on this chart.
I didn't think so. So we've done more than 90. Because we've contracted out.
Contractor isn't on the chart? Okay.
Right.
Then on iPad 27, it has pictures of the facilities up at the park at Paradise Lake, which looks excellent, all of them. The question I have is the gazebos that we placed down in front when we moved them over to the side. Last winter,
You said gazebo.
oh, did I say gazebo?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was quite an error. I have another
You can
name
use
for
it as a
outhouses,
gazebo,
but I
but
haven't used it here yet. At any rate, they are tilted, or were, I hope this has been corrected, they were tilted back toward themselves. And the one day I was there in the winter when there was ice, there was about an inch of ice in the front of these toilets. And I wondered if that balance has been corrected because the concrete was poured and everything. There needed to be some correction because there's considerable liability to the district if somebody walks up there in the winter, whatever reason they're up there, and falls down going into the toilet because of ice.
I know I talked to staff, if it hasn't been dealt with, it's planned to be dealt with, that's all I can tell you.
There's a certain slope on there for runoff?
Yep.
You're talking about the pad, right?
Yeah, but it runs off,
Yeah,
it runs back to the toilet. Instead of running out to the lake, it
Lake
runs back
direction.
to the toilet.
ADA concrete work is very specific
Yeah.
and delicate. It needs to be very flat. Therefore, it's difficult to get your runoff. So there was a little duck pond there that does catch rain.
Okay.
And lake permit sales on iPad 35, I thought we're doing excellent. We're ahead of last year's thing, and it keeps going up. So we really appreciate the community support and interest in using our facilities. And then 36, you have irrigation district lake permit sales. I would ask for, I've looked at them, and I'd like to see totals and comparisons with the last year or season, whatever, so we can compare whether, because you're doing it by boating and recreation.
I don't believe we have that compiled.
We do?
I don't believe we have it
Okay.
in previous years. This is new.
No, I'm not, well, maybe last year, but the totals of the page, I look at it and I'm going, well, I need a calculator to sit here and figure this out, how many permits we sold so far since January on
Well,
recreation.
he just wants totals.
That's totals, and if you have comparison, that's fine, but
Yeah, if you don't.
totals.
We didn't start this chart until this year, so I don't think
Right.
we'll have comparison,
Right.
but we could put totals at the bottom of those, I would think relatively easy.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
And, let's see, I have some question marks on iPad page 40. This is our billing records, and I circled variance on the first line, miscellaneous charges. I don't know what they are, but there were, on the August 13, 12, it's $10,000 variance. That's from year to date, but what are the miscellaneous charges?
Penalties,
Uncapped, cap.
shut offs,
Yeah, exactly.
Turn-ons.
yeah, turn-ons.
How about flow? The flow,
Backflow.
backflow?
Backflows don't go through the
Oh, they don't go
utility
through?
billing. No, they just go through the
Since
regular.
you mentioned penalties, and it allows me to interject the thing I almost put on the agenda and didn't after I found out. But the 10% late charge, can we have that put on the bill for people who can read it? That was brought up to me at the cemetery district, that their billing cycle here, we hit in between. They don't, no checks are written, or they're written, but they're not sent until the board approves it at the board meeting. And Jack was telling me that they'd gotten behind. They had a $500 bill and they got hit with $50, and he was surprised. And then when I got the information, knowing now that the 10%er goes back into the 70s when the board passed it, and I wasn't aware of it. Of course, a lot of things I'm not aware of. Just ask my wife.
That 10% doesn't hit until there's
90 days.
50 days.
50 days overdue.
Yeah, but I think it
That's
would be
not
something
a
we should put on the
monthly
bill
share.
for people who are aware of it. Don't get caught unawares.
Is that 50 days past the 40 or the?
They have 50 days to pay their bill, and then if they don't pay within 50 days, they will get hit with a 10% penalty.
Well, you did say, last time we said that we were going to put down the date that the penalty would when it would be late penalty
Yeah,
wise.
we're working on getting that into the bill, but we'll make sure that the language of the penalty calculation is on the bill.
Yeah, it should, I think you, by law, you're required to do
Miss
that.
And then they can do
overlook
the math
on
on
that, so it should have been.
50 days, it'll be a 10%.
Yeah, it just says a penalty, it doesn't say how much.
Do you want me to bring up committee at that point now?
There's a difference on, I guess I'm being a little nitpicking tonight, but at any rate, there's a difference on total accounts billed was 10,644, and total connections are 10,467. And do we have multiple bills to connections or something?
Say that one more time.
Total connections as of August 13, 10,460, and then if you go up to the second line down on billing, it says total accounts billed 10,644.
Yeah, so we actually do bill multiple duplicate bills
We
to.
have fire service accounts, we have, that's probably a lot of them is fire system connections. That's a different
Okay.
account.
There's about 80, I think, there, if I did my math right in my head. So,
62, not included in meter count.
that's it.
Okay,
Thank you for letting me ask some
so
questions.
the record will show that that passed 4-1. On there. Public participation. Individuals will be given an opportunity to address the board regarding matters not scheduled on the agenda. Although the board cannot take action on any matter not on the agenda, comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Opportunity for the public comment on agenda items will be provided at the time they are discussed by the board, with comments limited to 5 minutes per agenda item. Is there anybody from the public here tonight who wants to comment on something that is not on our agenda? No? Okay, we'll move on. Committee reports. Presentation, Paradise Citizens Alliance. I don't see much information on that.
I'll cover that. Chuck Rowe is here representing Paradise Citizens Alliance, and he asked for 3 to 5 minutes of your time to tell them about their organization and I think the project they've got coming up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you. We're actually making the rounds of all of our public agencies that serve Paradise, all of our nonprofits, and a lot of our community service organizations to share the news about this newly formed organization, Paradise Citizens Alliance, and our first big project. And we actually went live yesterday with our 2 websites and the new community-wide survey that is our first project. Basically, we are a group of citizens who have, in each of these individuals, have in the past and continue to contribute greatly to the quality of life in our community in a number of different ways. We are people of divergent perspectives who've come together around one primary unifying principle, and that is what can we do to help improve the quality of life in Paradise. And you, as a water district and the longest-serving form of government on the Ridge, probably play a key role in the quality of life of Paradise, and I'm sure you appreciate that. But there are a great many individuals and organizations that each and every day, both past and present, play a role in maintaining and improving the quality of life in Paradise. But there has never been, in the history of this community, or currently, an organization that steps back and looks at the entire scope of quality of life issues in Paradise and our strengths as well as our challenges. And that's where Paradise Citizens Alliance and where we felt the need to form an organization like that. Many years ago, in the late 19th century, early 20th century, they were known, mostly in the Midwest, as civic leagues, leagues that actually serve the advancement of their communities. Those have gone pretty much out of fashion. We see ourselves sort of in that tradition also as sort of a think tank, but our primary role is going to be one of advocacy in a positive, constructive way. We are going to do fact-based analysis of issues facing this community, quality of life issues, and provide fact-based recommendations, working with you, not against you or in any way undermining organizations or entities on the Ridge. We want to see ourselves as a resource for you to provide that independent view and perspective. We're nonpartisan. We don't support political candidates. We don't get into the politics. We are strictly nonpartisan, and we think that lends to our credibility. our first big project is actually the community-wide survey. We felt that before we decide where we're going to focus on where those quality of life challenges may be, we need to hear from the citizens of this community. And so last night, through our website, speakupforparadise.com, which we are going to hand out, show you how to access that. You can directly take this community-wide survey. According to one of our members of our committee, it only took him 8 minutes and 43 seconds to complete, but it's a very comprehensive survey, so that gives you a little encouragement. It's not going to take a lot of your time. So we encourage you to encourage your employees, your staff, any of your contacts in this community who are Paradise citizens who work or live here to please complete the survey. The more responses we get, the more valid and credible the survey. And the results of that will dictate what we focus on as the Paradise Citizens Alliance. There's a byproduct that we're looking for from all of this. One is that we hope, through our advocacy efforts, whether it is advocating to any of our groups in the community or supporting or opposing ballot measures on the local, regional, or statewide level that may impact Paradise, we also see a byproduct of raising the level of discourse and discussion in this community about issues facing this community. And we think that's important. Plus, we're committed through not only this survey, but follow-up surveys, targeted surveys we're going to do on specific issues to really increase the level of citizen participation and involvement in Paradise. So those are some of the byproducts, the positive byproducts that we see happening from this effort. It's a fantastic group of people, very committed to this community, love this community deeply, and want to see it prosper and improve. And I know you do and share that same feeling. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and share with you all about the Paradise Citizens Alliance. I'm going to leave you our handouts with Georgiana. And please get on the survey and fill it out. Thank you so much.
I have some questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Larry, go ahead.
Yeah. How are you being funded?
We're not being funded. We're just
Who's
contributing
paying?
out of our own wallet, just any of our efforts.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's no money coming from any outside group.
Okay. What is it now? You say the survey, is it going to be Paradise only?
Yes, Paradise only.
Only. Okay.
Yes. You'll actually, the first question is going to be asking you your zip code.
Zip code.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Anything else? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chuck. That sounds great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're going to be doing something similar to that ourselves, coming up in item 8 soon. So thank you very much. Was there anybody else who had a comment or a question on that from the public? No? Okay. Thank you again for that. Board oral reports regarding representation on commissions and committees, PRPD, Lake Ridge Park, Botanical Gardening, Planning meeting. Director Kellogg.
I've got a helper tonight, so I wanted to get the helper up here. Mike Rink happens to be here, and he actually ran the meeting. So I thought I'd come back here to the speaker, and so the Mike's participating too.
No worries.
No. Thanks for coming, guys.
Oh, that's no problem.
I thought you'd appreciate it. That's why I didn't tell you before the meeting. We had a real nice meeting, and Mike chaired it and brought some people in. We had about 12 people from the community. They're all interested in the botanical gardens and wanted to contribute in one way or another of their time and efforts. And we went out and walked around a little bit and talked. And I don't, one of the reasons I need you, I don't remember the fellow that you had there that did the run-up work, so maybe you can explain that.
Okay, Greg Milton from Milton Design basically facilitated the meeting. The good thing about that meeting, Paradise Garden Club was there, stimulated their thinking, and they donated $1,000 to the Botanical Garden. So that was really neat. So that came off of that meeting. So we're coming along. There's a couple things with the park that go along with the Botanical Garden. Obviously, we've got to get there. Is we've got the plans for the frontage improvements, which include the sidewalk, curb and gutters, outlets for water and power, and hopefully by the end of this fiscal year we'll be putting that in. So at least we'll have a start with some construction up there, and so that's coming along. The planning for the Botanical Garden, like Bill was saying, is starting. We'll be getting some design work done and hopefully have something that that everybody would be proud of. Like I said, we're $1,000 closer to our goal now, so that's really good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
It was a good meeting and a lot of participation, and people were very positive and looking forward to helping with the garden. So every meeting we go, we get a little bit done, and we get more feedback from the community. The fellow was there from Butte College that does ornamental hort, and he looked like he'd like to help and work with the gardens too. So we got a little bit of college support finally. So step by step. We're not in a hurry. We can't be because we don't have any money. So.
Work in progress. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mike, for that. Butte LAFCO, Director Duncan.
Okay, we met on the 11th of September because, which is normally we meet on the first Thursday, but this was the second Wednesday because of other scheduling with the Butte County Board of Supervisors chambers. And the first thing was we had our Cal LAFCO in the latter part of August, the latter part of August, and I've been doing taxes for 2012, and I'm all mixed up on dates right now. But anyway, so we had our Cal LAFCO conference the end of August, and out of it was our 50 years of Cal LAFCO, and so our public member Carl Leverson, who's been with us, has been with LAFCO for 40 years, got a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Cool.
But what's interesting is Governor Brown formed Cal LAFCO 50 years ago, and now we have Governor Brown again, his son. And I thought that was interesting. And so we had the meeting up there. Unfortunately, I got elevation sickness. Don't ever get it. It's terrible. But I made the mistake of going to up to 8,000 feet, and I overexerted myself, plus the smoke from Yosemite did it, and I was sick in bed the whole meeting. Yep. But anyway, I did read the stuff, and I was up for election, and I got elected without being there. At the meeting. Luckily, one of the members, he told them that I make all the LAFCO meetings. It's just I didn't make that one, the Cal LAFCO. And okay, at the regular meeting, we approved another extension of services for the city of Chico. We're doing it one-on-one now for sewer service. And then we also approved a letter of appreciation to Dan Logue for sponsoring AB 743, which took the sunset clause out of island annexation law. There was, I don't know if you're aware of it, but they passed a law in California that if an area is an island, you can annex it without a vote of the people or a vote of the city or whatever. It's a must-do. And there was a sunset clause in it, and they got that removed because there were a lot of people who were waiting for it to sunset so that they could take advantage of doing things with islands. What it is people have a tendency to go to a cheaper land and develop, and they leave the land between it, and then that's an island. And so those people in there, they don't get services where everyone else does.
I'm glad you explained that. Somehow I was thinking, was this down the delta on one of the islands?
No. This is zoning.
Does that relate to some of the places in Chico?
A lot of them in Chico, a lot of them in Oroville.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any in Paradise. But, because Paradise, I think the whole town is, what do they call it, disadvantaged? Yeah. Technically, right.
By definition, most of the time.
Right. Okay, and then we also had a report to the membership and general activity update, Cal LAFCO. And then we had an executive report, and our CEO was made deputy for Cal AFCO again for 2 more years. That's it.
What was the position you were elected to? Just so the public knows.
I'm on the executive board of Cal AFCO. We have 4 meetings a year, which LAFCO pays for, not PID. I want to stress that.
I just wanted the public to know.
Oh,
I
okay.
knew the answer.
Oh,
but yeah.
okay, good. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Director Duncan. Community Relations, who's the chairperson on that? I'm sorry. Bill? That's what I thought. Okay. What it looked like.
You appointed me.
Yeah, I know. Well, hey, you know.
He remembers everything.
I've got about 10,000 things going through my head tonight, so
That's all right.
I apologize.
We have a roadmap to excellence in community relations. Our Water, Our Future Paradise Irrigation District, thanks to Tanya and Mark Dale. We sat there for 2 hours. Was it 2 hours? Yeah, for 2 hours and nitpicked this thing. And my super nitpicker was there, and he really did nitpick it. And we went through everything from spellings to whether we had A's or points or whatever. But we did actually get some meat done too.
Who's your super nitpicker?
Oh, well, who else but Ken?
We got a match, who it is.
And then George was referee. Well, we didn't need him much. We got along pretty well, actually, and which is unusual for the two of us. But I just want to really compliment Mark and Tanya for an excellent report, and it will come up again in the agenda. And this is what we've had 2 meetings on this, and a great deal of work went into it by Mark and Tanya, and they certainly deserve the credit for it. We helped them get educated about politics and PID on different committees and so forth, where we didn't have a conflict in this report. That was probably the best thing that we did at the meeting. And I think if we continue with this thing as we're going, and we'll cover it again later, this is going to be really helpful to this district working with the community. So do you have anything to say, Ken? You want to add anything?
I'm pretty sure that before we left, just the official verdict was that the committee is going to recommend adoption of the
Right.
program.
Which will be coming up a little later. Okay, thank you, Director Kellogg. Water Conservation Committee, Directors Corolla and Flesher. Director Flesher, would you?
Yes. We had our September meeting on the 10th, and we had several items of business. This is a recently formed committee this year, and we feel very comfortable that we've accomplished quite a bit in the time that we've been doing it. And some of the areas we're talking about is some public service announcements at the movie theater, putting together a water supply video, and Butte College is going to help us edit that and do some of the work on it. And then some of the conservation work on the bill option that we have, so we get the word out and better supply. And then we're also putting together a plan for a landscape maintenance workshop that we most likely held in February, and of course everything has to come to the board to be approved, so we'd be doing that. And on that one, we would be primarily using our larger users, such as the Feather River Hospital, Parks and Rec, School District, and then some of our other contractors, and put together something that everybody could use as to better use of water and different types of sprinklers and all that. So that's kind of exciting. And then we had a landscape subcommittee, and that has to do with the possibility of a demonstration vegetable garden, and we're going to be talking about that later in the meeting. It's under new business item 8C. And I thought it was a very good meeting. What was your thoughts?
Very, very good. And also, we gave our support to another agenda item, which has to do with the roller skating rink.
Yes.
Or ice skating rink.
Ice
Sorry,
skating rink.
not roller skating rink, ice skating rink. I guess it'd be dangerous if we had roller skates out there. So yes, very productive meeting. We're moving along very well in that, and hope to have some good ideas and some things to bring forth as we get into the winter time, and then launch those in spring when people will start using water again for landscape. So thank you, Director Flesher. Paradise Lake Recreation Committee, Directors Flesher and Hunt. And Ken, I believe you're the chairperson on that?
Yeah, there is. I have a little problem with that because I left my file in my office instead of in my briefcase, so I didn't get to bring in all my notes. so I'm going to try and go a little bit by memory. We discussed no trespassing signs at the lake. Apparently we have some kayakers who are paddling off onto the Vandegrift right-of-way, and so some steps were taken to re-identify the no trespassing signs. We did talk about the biggest part that I thought, or that sticks in my memory, is probably because I brought it up, was looking into the possibility of providing some type of an outside vendor who would open shop at the lake and provide kayak rentals. We had some little bit of discussion about that, but all I wanted to do was just open it up for general evaluation from the committee, and certain people will be doing research between now and our next meeting to see if we can find a company who might have a portable operation where they just haul it in, maybe for just Saturdays and Sundays, open an awning. They run their concession and rent kayaks to allow people the opportunity to experience the lake without having to go to the investment of a kayak, especially if they have never kayaked before. They may not want to make that investment. But it's not too much to make an investment for a rental. The benefit to us, of course, is that it increases basically tourism there. It would increase the day parking and the usage fee for the boats to go on. And it's something that we're going to look into. And we were talking about raising money some other ways. I can't remember. I think in general the committee would like to increase the price of the fees for. That wasn't true.
I didn't think so.
Might have been the chairperson, but
You gave it away, Ken.
Yeah, I was remembering one part. One of the things that the Lake Committee works on is the watershed protection plan. And there was an individual by the name of Keith, I forgot his last name, who was the Chico supervisor of the California Conservation Corps. And he was there giving a presentation. And for $50, we have the chance to get $75,000. I know George has been working with him, so I'll pass it on. And he was at the Gold Nugget Museum with his crew this past weekend, so I had the opportunity to visit him a couple of times, and he's still excited on it. If you want to give the highlights of it.
Yep, I'll do it real quick. The California Conservation Corps Chico group put in a grant request on our behalf to do some clearing, much like we've done with the Cal Fire crews, etc. And he came to me and we worked out a plan. If you remember, we had a grant. The last part of our current grants we have is 15 acres above the dam and then 15 acres below the dam along this roadway and about 100, 200 feet up the hill. And what he put in for a grant with their crews doing work would be to pick up where that left off, all on this east shoreline, and do the same the rest of the way of the access road going up as far as they can go up and cut and then drag brush down and chip. And then when we get past the diversion dam, it's not chipper accessible, and they're willing to go in even in that steep country and cut and pile brush and burn it. So depending on what our grant funding is, we could get we got a large majority of our western shore done in the last couple of years. This could take on a large majority of our eastern shoreline property we own.
Then the other thing I'll elaborate on, and we talked about that at the Living Days of History, the CCC saws logs off, and then I happened to be one of the guys that brand them, and Keith was there with his crew. There also, and it has nothing to do with this grant, there's a possibility that where the Forest Service land, which is totally out of hand as far as brush is concerned, is adjacent to us, they cannot go onto that. But if we can get permission from the Forest Service, which everybody seems to think is possible, and Greg was the one, Lake Patrolman Greg was the one that came up with this, we would cut Manzanita, and the Cal Fire CDC people would drag it down, and then the conservation crew could take it from there and drag it out in the water and sink it in certain areas of the lake which have a very low habitat, and I'm not sure where those areas are at. So there's a lot of exciting things going on.
Yeah.
They
And
would
this Keith has really turned on to us.
cable together the
Cable
bands.
together, it's kind of,
Create an artificial reef for the little fishes to.
it's like the Christmas trees that they do in Oroville, but there it would, Manzanita would work better. This is from Craig because it won't float and all that. So a lot of exciting things going on. Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
Did we refresh your memory?
Yeah, well, I think we got most of them. I feel that
I think we did.
If there's more, we
concerned
can,
that I don't have my notes. I would rather
Between you,
go
George,
We did it all.
but all it was a very productive meeting.
That was a good meeting.
I think we established the next meeting in early December, late. No, it was in October.
November.
November?
November, I think.
Was it 2 months? About 2 months to get our little bit of research done and come back.
stick with that, or do you want to refer back to your notes, or
I'm going with that.
you're going to go with that? Okay. Thank you very much, guys, for that report. It is great to hear. It'd be great if we can get that grant and CCC on. General Manager's report. George, what you got for us?
Well, I was involved in putting together a lot of these agenda items, so my manager report was last, and it was a little short, but you have my written report, some highlights, and then I'll answer questions. Again, thanks to the Clark Road work our crews did. Got that all knocked out. We estimated our material cost on that was just a little over $13,000.
Instead of 70?
Instead of 70.
That's
So
beautiful.
thanks again to our distribution staff for stepping up to the plate. You can see all the work going on that they were getting ahead of. We are finalizing, thanks to lots and lots of effort of Jim Passanisi, our loan application documents for the B Reservoir Planning Project. That's due this week. And we're wrapping that up, and Jim put a lot of effort into that and coordinating it and getting everybody's input, and I appreciate it. We're taking our next step with the process water recycle project. They're going to present where they're at on Friday to staff in their kind of draft report. We'll kick that around so they'll be able to fine tune it before he brings it back to our board here. That's kind of the highlights that I can think. Oh, new chart. The Conservation Committee we kicked around a lot of ideas about getting the word out that we are on a year-to-year drought cycle, and there was some concern expressed that 76% of storage looks like a lot of storage. Maybe we should look at reporting in a percentage of average years, so that similar to they do with Lake Oroville. It's a pretty simple chart at this point. And so I'm not sure what they're trying to accomplish would do what it takes, so we'll bring it back to them. But we're in the 96% of our last 12-year average as far as storage goes at PID at this point in the year. I think if people see 96% up on the sign, that's not going to make
It doesn't
a
sound,
statement.
that wasn't, I don't think that was the direction we were going with that. So, yeah.
Well, we didn't know what the data
No,
said.
I know,
This is
exactly.
what the data
I know.
says, so we'll keep working on that with the Conservation Committee. But I want to explain that chart a little bit.
Right, because if we had 14 years of severe drought, then in the 15th year, we got an eighth of an inch more rain, then we'd say, hey, well, we're above what we've been for the last 15 years. It might not be the right message.
Yep.
You'll have to work on this as a
Maybe it shouldn't be of a traveling average, that keeps moving at an aggregate average.
On water rights EIR, when will we see a report from the consultant environmental? I can't think of the CEQA. That's a CEQA report.
We're waiting. They did all the field work, and when you do CEQA, you need to know what the project is. Well, the project originally was extending our 2 permits 25 additional years, and when we started conversing with the Water Rights Board staff, they want us to go to license on our earliest permit. And so our consultant has our data now. The Water Rights Board staff's had our data that Neil worked on. Thanks to him, he's put a lot of effort into that program. My drought report. And so once we get our consultant with a little bit of time, they will start pushing the Water Rights Board staff to try and negotiate what a license term would be, so that we can take that license term through the EIR process. Because if we just went forward with just the permits, and then they have us go to license, we got to go back to square one and rewrite the document, re-advertise it, public comment again, the whole process. So we're trying to get it to where it needs to be before we start the CEQA process.
Do you have any feeling at all about our water rights, what they're going to do or not do? Or?
Pretty similar to what I presented early in the year. We can bring that back up and bring it back up to speed in the October meeting if you like.
Yeah, it's so important to the district. I think we've got to stay on top of it. That's our bread and butter.
Okay. Oh yeah, I have one more. I not really ready to disclose a location right now. But there's a well in town that an entity has that is facing some additional regulations with the Butte County Health Department, I believe, to comply with that well and keep it active. They have a connection with PID. The well happens to be located in a location with lots of parking. I don't think it's a super high production well, but it has the potential to being a good emergency supply source. We're talking catastrophes where our water's not drinkable, a location where we could deliver well water into bottles of our customers in the event of a large emergency. The problem is they have no idea about anything, characteristics of the well, depth of the well, those kind of things. So for me to even bring anything reasonable for you to evaluate, I would have to hire a company to come do a well test and evaluation. And so I kind of wanted to test the waters with you guys. I think we're probably talking less than $5,000. But before I embark on that, is that something that you can nod, and it's not officially on the agenda item, but if you think that's got some value to chase down, I'll keep working on it.
Do you have any idea how many gallons per minute has ever been tested on?
We don't know, but looking at some of our wells, like our D tank well, we can go a long time at 225 gallons per minute, short times for 450. But then over on Nunneley, we drilled a well and it's barely 80 gallons a minute. At 80 gallons a minute, when you're dispersing it into bottles and providing a service, probably wouldn't be that bad of a tool to have in our tool belt. And so the idea would be to figure out what this well's doing, what it's producing, and then kind of figure out what we could do to take that over so that they didn't have to deal with the environmental health issues with the county, because it'd be our well, we would test it normally as we do with our other tests.
When we own a well like that, can the public take from it on a regular basis?
And they take,
Like there's a well I know of in town where they let anybody take water out of it.
once we own it, it'd be under our control. They couldn't do that.
They couldn't do that, okay.
So they're wanting to just hand this over to us.
It'd be a negotiated item. It's got value. We could have spent $125,000 on Nunneley well for 80 gallons a minute. So a well that's producing has value. How much the quantity is, what the quality is, will kind of determine what that value might be.
If we don't take it over, they have to stop using it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they'll have two options. They can stop using it and buy water from us, or follow the whatever parameters the health department puts on them for testing and that kind of thing. because there's enough different people using it. It's a non-transient, non-community water system, and those are licensed by the county, not the state, because it's small enough.
You know, I haven't done it in quite a number of years, but I used to be involved with a number of agricultural wells, big, small. The PG&E would test them for nothing, gallon. And then you just draw a sample and ship it to a lab, so. But maybe PG&E doesn't do that any longer.
Well, I don't think this board should make a decision on a freebie from PG&E.
No, it's as accurate as could be. In fact, we have a guy on our water conservation committee, that's his specialty, and he does it at Chico State all the time, Michael Spees.
Yeah, I don't know if PG&E would provide that anymore.
Why don't we wait until you have more information? And I think we all kind of gave you a little bit of a nod to be a good thing to investigate, having an emergency water source. But so wait till you're a little bit more prepared with some facts. Maybe it would be more appropriate to have a bigger discussion on this.
I needed to gauge your interest before I go spending money that even may be under my authority, but I don't want to jump out ahead of you.
Having an emergency water source
Got a lot of value to it.
it's got a lot of value, absolutely, so. Okay, and we went off that screen, so I can't see, was there anything else that you had on there? And I know you're working hard on the wells, so give us a short thing in October on that.
Reminder on the tour's tomorrow, and thanks again to all of staff. This is a pretty big effort of staff to put this all together and make it happen, and great turnout scheduled for it. So thanks to everybody. Bus is filled.
Nice.
With a waiting list.
I heard you're not going to be there, and so who else is going to do who's going to do the presentation?
Yeah, I've got a family emergency, so Kevin's going to lead it, and Keith's going to tag team with him as needed.
Kevin and Keith, huh?
The K&K, huh?
K&K group.
Well, I'm sure we'll be in good hands. Thank you guys for stepping up and doing that. Appreciate it. Okay, if that's it, we'll move on to the legal report.
Okay.
Justin Cooper?
Two legal-related items concerning pending litigation. The first, the JM Pipe case. The settlement with Formosa has been approved by the group, and George will go ahead and sign that. So that portion of the case is done. As to Formosa, the trial with JM is scheduled to commence pretty soon. I think it might have already started. It was sometime late September, early October is my recollection. The second item regarding our...
Can you go back on the first one?
Sure, go ahead.
If you remember, there was a settlement, and that money's going into an escrow until the disbursement is negotiated between all the parties.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a pool of funds, but we don't know how much PID or anybody else is going to get out of it.
Do you know how much the total was?
It's $22.5 million.
Same as before.
Yeah.
Based on how much you had invested into.
Could you explain to the public, maybe, I don't know, if they're up to date on that?
Sure. What the litigation concerns. The JM pipe. JM is a manufacturer of pipe, plastic pipe, PVC pipe, and its parent company is known as Formosa. It's a world. It's got conglomerates, sub-entities all over the world, and JM Pipe happens to be one of these sub-entities. They were both sued under what's known as a qui tam proceeding. It's basically a claim that they were submitting false claims to government agencies. And the claim is that they were selling faulty pipe, that pipe that would not last the length of time that it was claimed to adequately perform at. And there was a whistleblower, actually, that brought this claim. So the way the qui tam proceeding works is it goes out in secret to every governmental agency in the United States. And it originally goes to the attorney generals of each state, and then they can decide on behalf of their respective client whether to pursue it or not. So the group includes a number of states and then a number of political entities of states, including local agencies like Paradise Irrigation District. And I don't know, we do have JM pipe in the ground. Do you know about how much?
I couldn't pull it off.
It's
the top of my
thousands
head.
of feet. It's enough to be a substantial financial risk to the district in the event this pipe lasts, for example, 10 years instead of 30 years. So that was the reason why the district joined the lawsuit. And because it's such a large group of plaintiffs, of local agencies and state governments, it's being handled by one firm, kind of on behalf of everybody. So the settlement that I mentioned is with the parent company, Formosa. It's $22.5 million. It went into an escrow account. The thing that's interesting, to me at least, is nobody knows how that money's going to be divided. It's kind of, kicking the can down the road, I guess. My idea was we ought to just determine how much each agency has, how much pipe each agency has in the ground, add that total number up, and then you get a percentage, and you divide it pro rata along those lines. So it may be something like that. It may be something completely different. But that's the essence of the suit. Good. Okay. The second item concerns the test claim. You'll recall we filed the claim in 2011. It took until June of this year for the state to file a response. And in August, I submitted a rebuttal, kind of our response to the response. The interesting thing that happened recently is the commission requested additional information on a very technical issue. I won't get into it unless you want me to, but the essence of the issue is, do the claimants, and remember you're part of a group again, it's PID, South Feather Water Power Agency, Biggs West Gridley Water District, and Richville Irrigation District. The four of you are pursuing this jointly. So the commission asked all four of the entities to prove that you are the recipients of proceeds of taxes. And proceeds of taxes is a legal term. In PID's case, it means, do you receive property tax revenue that was limited by Prop 13 and Proposition 4? So I've been digging through propositions over the last 30 plus years. There's about 6 of them that have bearing on our response, and the draft of the response is currently with staff being reviewed and will be submitted early next week. If the board is curious, or the public for that matter, the documents are all public information. The commission has a very good website. All the documents are linked on the website, or if the board would like, I could provide copies directly to you. But the request for additional information from the commission is interesting for a number of reasons. The most interesting thing is the tone at which the request, the way it reads. It's more in the tone of an argument that the opposing side may make, as opposed to a neutral judge, which is kind of the role of the commission at this level. So it seems pretty clear to me that they've kind of reached some kind of conclusion, and we need to persuade them otherwise. So at a future date, maybe October or later, I will ask for a closed session item to have a little more strategic discussion with the board about that case.
It sounds like they're asking us to prove that we have a standing in the matter, a standing.
Yeah, and it's related to, you would not be eligible for reimbursement for state mandates unless you receive proceeds of taxes.
And they can't look at their checkbook and see when they write out the check and send it to our...
It's actually, no, they're not that sophisticated, but they are, the county is helping us, because the county actually receives the property tax revenue. Prop 13 limits ad valorem property taxes to 1%. So the county receives that, then distributes that. So the county has provided us with some records. Kevin's been digging through the district's files, pulling records for me. It's very clear. What is it, about 120,000?
250.
Oh, 250. Okay.
240.
We get about $250,000, $250,000 a year in property tax revenue. So it's very clear that we receive proceeds of taxes. It's just putting it in a form that the commission will accept. You see this a lot. It's entirely form over substance with them.
But they don't care how much we received.
Can we give them a canceled check or something like that?
I asked for that, but evidently we don't
It's
have
like
it. Maybe it's a wire transfer. I don't know.
We have check stubs. I mean, but that's the, if you want check stubs, I can pull some of those. Some of those are check stubs. Some we don't have them anymore.
So, as I said, I think at a later date I'll ask for a closed session to discuss strategy more so than just the kind of procedure we're at.
Weren't there years recently where the state raided our funds and
That's why I
they
asked
don't
him
have
that.
records of that?
That's called an ERAF shift, and yes. And we are actually starting to receive
We received it all.
reimbursement for that.
We received it all.
Yeah.
We received it all?
The part that we can get reimbursed was minor compared to the big chunk they took before.
Before Prop 1A.
Yeah.
See, that was one of the propositions that I've become so familiar with. Proposition 1A 2004 basically said that the state can raid property tax revenue so many times, I think it's 2 or 3. Twice every 10 years. It needs to be refunded with interest within 3 years of the taking. So they did that before 2004, and the districts never received those funds, it sounds like.
Yeah.
They've done it at least once since 2004.
Just once.
And the district received its money back from that.
Just this
We're
last
small
year.
potatoes compared to the rec district.
Yeah, well, they're entirely property tax funded. I mean, they have very little fees, so they feel it much. I'm sure they voted in favor of Prop 1A, put it that way.
Can we impose our 10% late penalty rule on that? Think that'll fly?
But this test claim would be something that their district would be very interested in, because it has the potential, as I've told you in the past, this test claim has the potential to benefit every local public agency in the state of California. Not just PID and not just entities that are subject to this Water Conservation Act. We have the ability to make very good or very bad law depending on the outcome of the case. So,
Well, when you're ready, give us some notice and we'll do that closed session.
Mr. President, could I ask George a question about his report?
You sure can.
Okay. I noticed it wasn't one of your report, but the question should go to you, that we abandoned some of the steel pipe at Pearson and Elliott. I mean Pearson and Clark.
Yeah, up Clark. That was the dual road main project.
Right. Do we have we done that in the past too?
Yes, actually, back in the 60s, there was a project called the Kingman Project, and there was a large effort in the district to put in new mains, and that's all of your cement lined, or cement or mortar lined and tar coated pipe, and then they put most of the tanks in at that time. But they did not move the services from the smaller mains that were running parallel down the road. So this is one of those that many were changed early on when we had experienced a lot of leak history on these dual mains, and John Price took the lead and just shifted services over to the larger mains. This one hasn't talked to us. It hasn't given us a great deal of problems, but we know based on its age it will. And so we took the first chunk out with this project to get ahead of it. Eventually we'll take the rest of that dual main all the way up to the Elliott Road intersection. And we've prepped for that through this project.
So then my question is, it was only 300 feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we take this off of our inventory of steel pipe?
Yes.
We do, okay.
Yes, because you always see the pipeline installed list. We also maintain a pipeline abandoned list, and it goes on that, and then that all gets calculated into our total footage.
Want to make sure. That's my question.
Thank you both. Okay, anything else legal? Was that?
no, that's it.
Okay. Since there's no old business, we'll move on to new business. I'm going to kind of shift things around here because Mike is here and I'm sure he'd like to get home at some type of reasonable hour, so he's got a few things that we need him here for. So I'd like to move up item 8G. Let's go ahead and, 'cause I think there's a couple people from the public that might possibly be here, for the Paradise Recreation and Park District property off Nunneley Road. And George, if you just want to kind of do us a quick fill-in on that. I think everybody's read it.
Okay, yeah, Mike Trink and I talked about this property, both with the understanding, and I should have made it more clear in my memo, this is just kind of an exploration, manager to manager, of trying to work cooperatively with issues. And so he expressed his issues with this piece of property over time, and it was property that PID granted them back in the 70s. And so we pulled out the deeds, looked at them, realized that that came with a caveat that they always have to maintain it as a park. Otherwise, it comes back to us if they don't. So they didn't have the right to sell the property, turn around and sell the property. So they have options they're exploring for this piece of property. One of the options, and through our discussions, we dreamed up this third option, and so you guys are getting the first shot at it. His board hasn't dealt with it because we wanted to gauge whether you're giving them another additional option or not by taking this action tonight. I'll hit the letter a little bit. We got a very well written letter that was sent to you after the packet went out. Respect the opinion, looks, is very well written, but my comment to you is we are a water district. We're not in the open space business. This process, as you probably remember from the past, when a government entity, either us or Paradise Parks and Recreation District, are going to declare a piece of property surplus, then that property gets first offered to other public agencies before it can go out on the market. So if the town of Paradise saw this as a valuable piece of open space, they're in the open space business, perhaps they can purchase it. So with that, Mike, you want to add anything?
Excuse me. No, that was very good. I appreciate that. Obviously my board hasn't heard this, as George said, so it's coming to you kind of firsthand to see if there's another option. I myself is taking something in the October board meeting to my board, basically with the recommendation from myself coming to them about this piece of property, and then at that time the board will be taking action, and obviously tonight's action or non-action will kind of direct some of that too. So thank you. If there's any questions.
I have a question. You've had this 30 or 35 years?
We've had it in 1974, I believe. That's when we got it.
40 years.
Yeah, just about 40 years. So during the course of that time, what type of expenses would you incur?
When we first got it, basically none. Obviously, times have changed. In the last decade or so, we've had to go through a fuel reduction setting where we've cleared the upper section. The town fire department required us to clear the upper section. The lower section is in process. CCC did some work there a couple years ago. It's quite heavily brushed down in the bottom section. Obviously, access requirements have changed since 1974. The property has no parking on the property itself. Access is extremely limited. We're just finding out, that over the years, the liability of keeping the property, in my opinion, doesn't really justify the service it's doing for the community. So that's why we're exploring that now. And again, my board hasn't made a decision. I'm talking on behalf of management at this time.
So the nature of this property, the topography is that it's very steep. Is it possible? Could it possibly be developed by a contractor, a developer, and put in houses?
There's one little corner on the would be the. Let's see if I can figure this out. This southwest side of it.
No.
Yeah. Southwest side of it that's flat enough that there could be something developed on that site, but getting to it would be very difficult. Our easement to that property is right at the end of Nunneley. If you're familiar with the property, right at the end of Nunneley, it drops off 15-18%. For
I was
about,
trying to think, what's the name of that road that's...
I think it's called not Lake Ridge, excuse me, wrong park.
Yeah.
Oak Creek Ridge. And it's very steep. It drops down, and then right there in the corner is where the property is.
Is that where the town was planning on putting a road through to Pence?
No.
Oh, it's not?
No.
They'd probably need a bridge.
Yeah, it was the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't there a pipeline that goes straight across and comes out at the bottom of Fickett or something like that, though?
There's a pipeline easement on
Yep,
that.
we've got an easement.
I remember there being
You
a
look
fire
right up
hydrant.
here, we got an easement and a cross-country main that goes this way.
Yeah, because there's a fire hydrant down at the end of Fickett, and I can't think of his name. I've done some work for him before down the end property down there.
Fickett.
And I was down in there one time, and I'm like, fire hydrant? And he goes, yeah, that comes from over on Nunneley side. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. That is on the other side of the hill there, you know, so. So there's no real value in this property, I don't think, for the district.
Now, Neil and I looked at it elevation-wise. If you were to make it a tank site, not only is it steep, very expensive.
It feels
but
like this when you go
there
over
would
the
be
edge there.
miles of pipeline to get it connected to the zone that elevation would feed. So it really has no purpose for us. I'm only guessing, but it's likely one of those pieces of property that the district took back for unpaid taxes many, many years ago and just hung on to it. And it's kind of the same vintage as a lot of properties in town that the board at that time decided, let's get rid of any property, whatever they decided. Much like this piece back here, that one time PID owned it. It was probably one of those same ones that were kind of cleared off the books back in that day.
You know, the thought of having a park was a great idea, but unfortunately it just never came to fruition.
So
So
what have you been spending on maintenance, dollar-wise?
Pardon?
To maintain the property, what's been your cost?
We haven't done any analogy on that.
You haven't kept track of any cost?
No.
But it is out of pocket, nothing coming in, so,
This is true.
yeah.
What kind of a buyer are we going to expect to find for that piece of property?
The easy answer is we're not. They are. But
That's right.
The counter to that, we don't have authority to yet.
Yeah.
but
Go back to the document.
yeah, but septic. One more. Septic technology keeps changing, getting better, and so for the right price, somebody may pick it up and sit on it until it's such a time as they can, make it more useful than one home. Somebody may want to put a single home on that one spot and have their personal compound, and you never know.
So have we taken an opportunity to talk to a realtor, or have any idea what that type of property is worth, or we're just in the development stages?
Well, that was our plan if the PID board passes that, is to get a local realtor and explore that. There's a couple things that obviously we're going to have to get involved with if we do decide to sell it. I'm sure some of the property corners are going to need to be found and
first off,
identified.
we have to offer it to another agency,
Yeah.
so.
That would be their obligation again.
Right.
Well, that's what I mean, so, I mean, might not just be the open market that but the proceeds would be split between our two
Well,
entities.
that's what I proposed. Again, his board has no input on that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but one of their options is to say, PID, we're not going to develop a park here. We're abandoning this piece, and
It's
we would
yours.
get it back. And then it would become our maintenance issue until we found a buyer.
So hopefully they're trying to get a little bit of their maintenance money back.
Well, I think to
Yeah,
split
and
the proceeds
we're
is
trying
an
to make it
equitable
as
deal
fair to
for.
everybody, so
Right.
everyone's getting covered.
We're not talking about any monumental dollars here anyhow.
And the property is a little convoluted in the sense that we have the road easement. Paradise Recreation Park District has the road easement. You've got a water line easement. And then the property is in the, well, it's our ownership now, but if we abandon it, it comes back to you.
If you abandon it, would we get your easement?
And that I don't believe so.
For a price tag.
Unless we give it to you.
If they abandon it, though.
All of a sudden, that easement's
For half the
very
value,
valuable.
But if we sold it, I would imagine any owner would want that easement, at least the road, right-of-way easement, not so much the pipeline, but,
Well, the pipeline easement's gonna stay no matter what.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Well, it'd be an equitable solution for both entities. It would be a way for you guys to recoup maybe some of the lost dollars over the 40 years, which who knows how much that is, but I would think if you could sell the property, it would be more than you'd invested into it over the 40 years.
I would believe that.
I move approval to authorize the general manager and legal counsel to develop the appropriate amendments to the deed to allow PRPD to sell this piece of property with the requirement to share the proceeds equally between the agencies and authorize the board president to sign the appropriate documents.
I'll second it. You took a shortcut by not specifying the
By
APN.
not putting the AP number. Yeah.
Was there any other comments from the public on this? Was there any comments from any other board member?
Yeah, I have some comments. I talked to Mike this afternoon on this. I'm always looking for more grazing land, and I said I wanted to go look at it. So I'm going to abstain from the vote for no conflict of interest, although it may never develop into that. So just to make sure.
Okay.
Just in case you put goats on there for grazing?
Yeah, exactly.
No goats, no.
It sounds like it's good
Goats
for
walk
goats.
through fences. I don't know.
I think only goats could live on it.
We don't need a roll call vote, so all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. And one abstention, passes for, I guess we count that as a 0, or 1, I'm sorry. 0.
Well, didn't we say an abstention means you're voting for it?
Yeah, the policy.
Yeah.
You can throw the conflict in there.
That's
that
within the exception.
Yeah.
Passes
Exception to the exception.
Pass 4-0, so one abstention. Okay, so moving on to item number 2. Mike, you're back up again. I think, or I guess George, you're gonna.
Do you want to do the skate rink?
The skate.
Yeah, the skating rink. Yeah, thought we'd do that next.
Yes.
Okay. I brought this to the, we saw the flyer and I brought this to the Conservation Committee. That's it.
Okay.
Initially with the idea of having a conservation message on there. But as I thought further and discussed it with them, threw it out that it may be a good way to launch our, you haven't passed it yet, but our new phrase from our community relations roadmap, and that's the Our Water, Our Future, and the symbol. So that's what they recommended putting on this signboard with a maximum expense up to $450. I think it's
The inner track is actually less, isn't it?
yes, but the 450 was within the mind
graphics.
of working with somebody to help develop the graphics, get it ready to be delivered to them.
Okay.
I think this is.
Yeah, because it wasn't enough for one. It was too much for one and not enough for two.
Yeah, but there's extra expenses whether they develop the artwork or
There's
we
some
do.
parameters at the bottom that are going to require this.
The idea was to do the inside, but we're open. I mean, if you
I
want
like
to do
the
the outside,
inside.
we could be really close to making it work.
Why do you feel the outside boards are more valuable than the inside boards?
Well,
What's the
other
theory
than going to
of that?
other ice rinks and having them tell us that's the way they do it, I could never figure out the reason.
One thing I could see is when when it's not in use, then it's like a
Right.
billboard around the outside of a baseball park or something like
If you're
that.
not on the ice
But
rink, you don't
when
see
it's in use and people are closer
Well,
and
that's
actually
what
going
I
to see
was
it,
thinking. When you're
you're
in
going to be
use,
standing
everybody's
against
sitting
it.
on the rail
You're going to be
looking
looking
in.
inside the rink, and that's
Yeah.
why I thought that the inside
Yeah.
track was
Yeah.
a good reason to have. But
Where are the outside ones going to be?
on the outside of it,
Outside of what?
No,
Rink.
see, if you kind of look,
A
it's
little
hard
fence.
to see,
Be a little
but
fence?
this is the wall we're talking about right here.
think about a hockey rink without the glass above it.
It's inside, outside.
Short wall.
It's the same wall.
Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
one's on the inside and one's
Yeah.
on
One's on the
How
outside.
tall is the wall?
It's about 3.5 feet.
Oh, okay.
If we're on the
It
inside,
is
we
an
won't
ice
have to
rink.
worry
It's
about
not
the
a
stray
roller rink.
dog coming out.
Well, no dogs can jump walls, so it's only that high.
I think this is pretty much a no-brainer. If I'd entertain a motion to.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. I got one out of Bill already.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody?
I'm not real sure what
Doug?
so moved means.
Did you
but-
say aye? I'm sorry. Passes 5-0.
I was the one that seconded it.
Thank you, Mike. It's a great thing too. That's going to be completely
That's the way we
neat
do it
thing.
now, so.
Get my picture up.
I also then wanted to move up. Mike does have some interest in item 8D, which is the engineered wetlands evaluation. And
He does?
I'll get to
Director
that.
Kellogg brought up some
Yeah.
very good points on some engineered wetlands in
Where it's, I gotta find.
future look. Thanks,
that
Mike.
page.
Vegetable garden.
In our upcoming processed water, recycled water project that we're going to have to endure. And so some of the stuff there, did you want Mike to be here for that, or I guess?
He's not. It's not.
Well, he's going to hang around just in case you have questions, because the two locations that we identified, let me just back up. They're related. How's that?
Yeah.
They're maybe involved in this. Neil and I put some effort into investigating the idea that Director Kellogg brought up of an engineered wetland as a solution to our problem up at that we're facing up at the treatment plant. And there's quite a bit of successful projects that did work. We looked at that and did our best guess of what could happen. We came up with two areas that have potential. One is off of Koodalink. The PRPD has a Koodalink Park, and they have quite a bit of land there that could potentially be used as an engineered wetland. And Neil, you might want to point for me. My pointer's almost dead. Here's one. Green button. So Neil will point out the location of the property. Oh, there it is, up there in the red. It bleeded in.
It's 10 acres. That's just a number that was a starting point.
Yeah,
The property is substantially larger than that. That's just a representation of approximately what we think it might be used.
Okay.
Nice.
Not yet. When you look into the material reference out there, you see everything from 2 acres to 250 acres, and different flow rates, and it's not a simple engineering calculations to say if you're treating this type of water, you need 2 acres at this flow rate. It takes a lot more engineering and understanding of how these plants interact and soils and all of that to be able to actually figure out what that acreage would be. But we did identify this spot as one location. So how it would work, and there's two ways either of these can work. But right now we'll just focus on the fact that we need to pipeline all the way up to that property, and then you have to build a wetlands. Now this water, there is a draw back behind that piece of property. So the potential is that water could come out of the wetlands after it was treated by the wetlands and flow back into Little Butte Creek. You would still have an MPDS permit. We don't know what the quality is, and it would come in above our diversion point. So we have some concerns from a water treatment standpoint. Do we really want this water coming back in at that point? We would likely get some of that, roughly 400 to 500 acre feet we talked about earlier, back into our system. But between losses, evaporation, losses in the creek, possible diversions in that creek for other farming purposes, all kinds of things, we can't really tell you what kind of return of that water we get back into our system. So then we looked at another location, and you can flip it now, and that's Lake Ridge Park. And I did talk to Mike about this some as an alternative to bring in and be part of their park plans there. And this one is closer, less pipes. The idea would be, instead of rehabilitating our ponds, we would build a brand new pond at this end of the park that is similar to what we have now. So you're settling out the main solids. You're going to be able to dry that material out and excavate it and take it to the dump. You take that release and put it into your wetland area. And that wetland area then would be incorporated in with their park to be a park-like setting. It's going to attract wildlife and things that could benefit the public. With this option, we may get a little more water, total water supply back, because we could put return piping that would release this water down below Magalia Dam, and we would back off the amount we're delivering downstream. Remember, we have to give a half CFS fish flow downstream, or environmental flows. So we could put this, as this water comes into the creek, and we would dial back what we're releasing to get our half CFS. So we get a little more water supply bang for the buck on that alternative. It's a little closer. Again, the quality of that water, because it's interacting with all of these organics, we don't want to introduce that to the headworks of our plant, because then you're going to have problems with chlorine interacting with those organics, and you're going to have a lot more issues with the treatment side. So we don't want to recycle it straight to the plant if we do an engineered wetlands solution. So there's the two areas we've identified. You got a cost sheet, take that for what it's worth. It's our best guess on what it may cost. Bottom line, both of these options, we're going to end up with an MPDS permit. We're not getting out of our permit. We'll get a new permit, new parameters. Like we talked earlier, who knows what's going to change down the road? What are we going to treat for next? And is this being effective for it? A lot of big questions and concerns. The upside is, with either alternative, you'd probably see it more here, is some of those dollars you're spending get a public benefit. They get to touch and feel and see. But it's not in our district. It's out of our district. So I'll
But it
point
is
that
part of
out.
the park we're trying to promote.
Yeah, and it is. But bottom line, it's a viable alternative. It possibly could work. I can't recommend it because we're not getting out of our permit, and I think that's a mistake. And we're not going to regain the amount of water that we're going to get out of a total recycle project. So we looked into it. If you want to look into it further, that's what tonight's agenda is about. I talked to Roger Cohn. He's worked with several people that have done engineered wetlands at other firms. He brought one guy up to speed on it and got a price. He's actually ready to come up Friday if you approve it to kind of do an initial look at it. But the $10,000 number is just an initial evaluation. Sit down with us, look at all of Roger's data, all his information, look at the two sites, and come up with a preliminary idea to the board. How big does he think it's going to be, initial size, do these sites work, those kind of things.
One of the most key questions, is it going to be a long-term solution to our long-term problem that we're going to be enduring as
That-
things
that's-
tighten up.
That's why I can't support it.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
You're telling me that they won't let us put water from our ponds because of stuff that's in the water, but if we put it through the wetlands, they're gonna let us put it directly into the creek?
Yeah, because you design those wetlands with the right plant materials, foliage, length, flow rate, all these different parameters to take the aluminum out that's the problem and to deal with the THMs that are a problem. So when it gets outside that, into that wetlands, then you don't have those
It's a
constituents.
natural
anymore.
filter.
Well, do they make us test it? To make
Oh,
sure
yeah.
it's doing it?
Oh, yeah. And I did call the regional board and talk to our rep, and, she's working to get, if we proceed, they have one guy that works up there that has 4 or 5 in operation, but they're all treating runoff from abandoned mines. So it's not apples for apples, but he was going to at least kind of bring her up to speed and let us know anything we maybe should know going into this.
But we still have to keep the permit if we do the wetlands.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because we're
You're
releasing.
still discharging to a water.
Wetlands.
The other way, we were bringing it back into our treatment plant, so it was never.
Once
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah.
No, we're discharging when it leaves the wetland.
You still have to have.
That's
a
when we're
permit for
discharging.
wetlands, huh?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I was hoping that maybe there'd be a less stringent permit from a wetlands.
Not likely.
I'd like to comment on the Lake Ridge thing. It's actually it's a problem. That would pretty much do in the park and botanical gardens, the way it's mapped out. It'd have to be moved another 100 feet or so. It's right on the border of where the drainages change. The drainage into the lake as opposed to into Magalia. So it's not a good site, but where you see no brush there.
That site would be changed, though, to.
Yeah, the site has to be changed down the hill somehow. This lava cap where you don't see much brush in here, we cleared a lot, but this is a lava sticking out there. Where we cleared was where that hand is now. But as you go down the hill, and they have the open space, and that's lava cap to concerned with. But
this isn't an engineered size, shape, or anything. In
Okay.
that area you're talking about, that's where it starts dropping off. So Neil kind of circled the flatland area that you could put flow through. When you start going down there, that's where it's dropping off the hill.
yeah, it drops off quite a bit.
You're not voting tonight into what site and what the shape's going to be. You're voting to if we want to invest the money to look at this idea. And I think it's a great idea. I think you brought forth something that is a great idea, but I'm in the same boat with George. If this is not a long-term solution to our long-term problem, you won't get my vote, and I can tell you that right now. So,
Well, I
but
never.
think it's worth the money to.
When I proposed it, I said I didn't know where it was going and what was possible. But the proposal I had was actually putting it right behind the Magalia Reservoir and up in the,
Where the ponds
because
are at.
eventually if we put a dam in there, it's going to have to go up 60 or 90 feet above the existing dam.
Yeah, on that option, I talked to Dustin. I brought that up with the regulator a little bit. It is a water of the U.S. already. You can't just wake up and decide this is a wetland.
No, I
and
understand what
discharge
you
is
have to
going
do to turn it into an unofficial wetlands, yeah.
And and you always have to be careful because we're planning on raising the dam. So if you change the definition, characteristic, etc., you may end up having to mitigate even more things down the road when you actually raise the dam.
We're not going to raise the existing dam.
Well, even if you build a new dam right in front of it, you're still going to.
No, I was thinking we're going to build a dam 60 to 90 feet back into the reservoir.
Well, that hasn't
existing dam.
Yeah, that hasn't been decided yet.
No, I know, but when we talked about it and had the geologist report and everything, that seemed to be the only option for it. I was just saying it would be cheaper, I thought, that way. I realize I've got all sorts of information here about wetlands, and EPA has put out, I'll show you what it is. I haven't read it for obvious reasons. This is their design thing for wetlands. And so, yeah, there's a lot of hurdles to go through. But I was hoping something like that might be feasible. I don't know.
So I'll entertain a motion on item number D, because we're not going to find out anything more. We can spin circles just talking about it. But
I have a concern about wetlands, about the fact that, I was maybe 60 years ago, 1950, for example, I think we had swamps and we had other land. Now we've got this term wetlands. And all I bring that up to say is that wetlands were probably a brainchild of an environmentalist person who wanted to preserve natural habitat. Swamps, wetlands. And now wetlands have become this iconic figure here that if we do anything to take away from a lake or a stream bed or this, we have to mitigate by going out and spending money and have them just create a wetlands over in the desert. And my concern is that we're talking and thinking about the current rules with wetlands, and apparently they'll let us take dirty water and dump it into a wetland, and if we can engineer the wetland properly to filter this so that it comes out good on the other end, whatever good means right now. The NPDS, is that what it is? Might change the definition of what goes out. But my actual main concern is, what if somebody comes along after we develop a wetlands and we got new little critters and frogs and bugs and beetles and birds and things, and they say, what are you doing dumping all that nasty toxic water up there into the wetlands for? And launch a program, and environmentalists get behind it, and things change, and pretty soon they say, well, you can't put your dirty water up there anymore. You guys clean it up before it goes in there. Not to say that that's what will happen, but I think that there's a possibility that that will happen. And
not in California.
Not in California.
We're never undecided like that.
So I just say that, that's a potential factor. And if we engineer this other thing here that we're talking about to clean and treat our water, take the sludge away and put it right back in to our tank, I guess, and run it through and just reuse it and reuse it and reuse it and reuse it. And I think that's probably the safest way to go, even though it's more expensive by quite a lot. When Bill first brought up the idea, I thought it was a terrific idea also. I mean, something novel to look at, interesting. But the environmental causes, they give me cause for concern about which way we should go. And I guess I'm more toward going the scientific, let's clean it up today and put it back into our drinking water, and then we're going to clean that and drink it and take that backwash and just keep going back and forth that way and not have to do the NPDS permit.
But when Bill made the suggestion, I thought it was a great suggestion, like everybody else is saying. I've had the good fortune and the fun of working on several of these, and one case, most all of you have been at Butte College, there was just 2 little parking lots. Now the place is covered with parking lots. And we actually, because I teach heavy equipment, we built some retaining basins to basically catch the water coming off the parking lots to keep it out of Clear Creek. And the whole goal of it was to get it going into these retention ponds and to slow the velocity of the water down and all of this, and you catch the dirt. And we built them so that every couple of 3 years we could go in with a front end loader to take it out. It was topsoil, okay? And now they've determined those to be wetlands. And we cannot get a track or a wheel of a loader in there without being fined $5,000 for every time they get in there.
That's kind of like what I'm thinking
That's
about.
just what you're thinking, yeah. So I mean, if we put them and then you wanted to raise the lake, mitigation would just be mind-boggling.
And the greatest concern.
I don't know.
But both locations are well below any proposed
Lake
increase.
And
But it's amazing. Also at Butte, We built some,
Okay.
Sorry.
we built some wetlands that we wanted to take the effluent. Now, this is coming out of the sewer plant. I won't tell you what it is, but it's the water running out of the sewer plant, okay? And in August, I haven't done this for a number of years, but we would test the water at Clear Creek. Everybody knows where Clear Creek's at. One Clark and you down the bottom of the canyon. We would test it going into the campus and up there by the upper entrance, test it when it comes out down there by the fire station. And the water was generally cleaner when it left the campus than when it got there. And sometimes on the same day, like I was talking about the well, we would test it coming out of the effluent plant, the sewer plant. And the water was cleaner coming out of the sewer plant than it was in the creek coming into it. And these wetlands that we put together did the job because of the grasses and all of this. But the biggest problem we had, we don't have any usage in the summertime. That's when they really work. And in the wintertime, it's so wet that they don't work. So it didn't really work for us. It was a lot of fun building them.
The biggest problem I have is that we need a long-term solution, and if this is not going to be, and I still commend Director Kellogg on bringing this idea. It was not an idea I was even aware that was a functioning thing out there, and so we're going to show that. I'm going to entertain a motion, because right now we need to decide whether or not we are going to spend this money to further look at this. So you're going to show that with your vote, if I can get a motion from somebody.
I'd like to comment on it
Okay.
after you make your motion, and then comment then before we have a vote.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion.
I will.
Okay.
I move we do not approve to authorize the general manager to execute a contract amendment with Lee and Rowe for evaluation of engineered wetlands.
Second.
Comment.
My comments are several things. Engineered wetlands are used quite commonly, and they've been used with quite large firms that expect 30 years or 40 years life. They're not short-lived things at all. As far as the science involved in it, the first time I became aware of it was in an ag publication where they were doing work on small wetlands to see if they could actually clean up dairy manure water using wetlands at Davis, and they did, and very efficiently. In fact, it's one of the proposals going out now to the dairies in the state that are having been pressured quite heavily over water quality coming out. And so the wetlands and their expense being a lot less than the engineered. See, I don't need the engineered wetlands. What my proposal was not an engineered wetlands. It was trying to use what we have in the Magalia Reservoir, with the idea that the lake would be, the dam would replace up above it. We've always talked in the past, since we've talked about replacing the dam, and when we've said it's a long-term thing before we get there. We don't know if we have our water rights for one, and we don't know how we'd ever finance it right now. But the wetlands could possibly be put right there in the reservoir, with the dam going above them, so that they wouldn't have to be disturbed or anything by a dam construction project. They would exist in, I don't know what size would be appropriate, and because I don't think what we have so far as engineers, this is, like George says, it's worth what the paper's printed on. I don't think Roger, Cohn, and Lee and Rowe should do the engineering. They're doing the engineering on an $8 million project right now that's a super engineering project. They have 4 proposals before them, and I think there's a conflict of interest. It comes right down to it. They're talking about an $8 million job, and this is potentially maybe $2 million. If we do it with the water settlement ponds or treatment thing, that's a $2 million project. So, which we're going to do probably regardless of whatever else we do. I don't think this is a good job at all of looking into wetlands. I don't think the work that George and Neil have done is adequate to bring to the board. I think it is settled and fixed for you're looking at an engineering result. I didn't ask for an engineering evaluation. I asked for a wetlands evaluation using the potential of Magalia Reservoir. I had no idea that would even propose putting that much pipe in the ground or being that much higher than the reservoir. After all, the reservoir drains and we have a pump in it and everything else, and would be very little expense as far as pipes and I would think other assessments and building a bank and making it for it doesn't interfere with our overflow. But we don't know because we don't have any studies. Because that's what I was leaning at. It wasn't the rest. We made comments that night that there's wetlands in the reservoir now. George and myself both did. I went on the internet and found a professor at UC Berkeley who does consulting and training on wetlands, among other things, mainly hydraulic water devices all over the world. And he has an internet page. You can contact him. I'm sure he has students. He worked for 20 years or more as his own consulting firm on wetlands and other things in the Bay Area. And he's written books. His name is Philip Williams at UC Berkeley. He would be someone I would think it would be worthwhile for the district to contact to find out sources of other engineering firms that specialize in this, because this has become a specialty, separate from other engineering firms that think more in terms of concrete, pipes, and so forth.
Okay, I got one question, if you hold right there for a second. Isn't Lee and Rowe bringing in a different engineer? Isn't that what these dollars are for?
Let him finish. I'll give you my response.
Okay.
There's also other systems. There's a professor, it might have been one of George's teachers, Stuart Oakley, at Chico State, who does, in the civil engineering department, does environmental engineer, is environmental teacher in there. I don't know what that means exactly, but other than that. So what I'm trying to say, and trying to be, for me, I'm usually too blunt, is that this is not the kind of report that I expected. Actually, I'll vote against it, simply because of the conflict on engineering firms and the data here that isn't worth the paper it's printed on.
Well, you'll vote for the motion then?
No. Yeah, for the motion. I want it to come back to the board and have different inputs, a different consulting engineer involved in it, someone who specializes in wetlands, to give a more fair assessment of what we're talking about. Because most of this estimates here is $1,190,000 in 12-inch pipeline. That's 11,000 feet. It's 2 miles of pipe. The other one has half a mile of pipe in it. And I'm going, and one of them, for all practical purposes, destroys the park and the botanical garden with its location. And the other one is the one that requires 2 miles of pipe up on a side hill with drainage, and I can think of all the right-of-way problems you would have on getting the pipe there and going through private property, which it does. And I'm going, no, this is not what I proposed or asked for.
Bill, if I can, let me stop you there, because
okay, I'm done.
I agree with you. This is not what you proposed. So I heard what you said that night, and this is not what you asked for. So you're right in that respect, that this is not what you requested. So if we get through this, then I would like you to make a formal request.
Motion. Okay.
Yes, as to what you would like to see brought, and then we can vote on that. Now, I'd like to hear what George had to say on it, if we could.
Yeah, I take offense at your comments. We put a lot of work into it. The papers you handed me were about engineered wetlands. It's absolutely ridiculous to think you're going to build an engineered wetlands anywhere in the footprint on the hillside of our reservoir, that you're going to turn our reservoir into a wetlands. I put a valid, reasonable effort into this. We have an engineering firm under contract. For us to go out and hire another engineering firm to go off on another tract, you expect these competitors to share information? That's ridiculous. This man, Lee and Rowe, brought forward a sub-consultant that has a specialty in this field. He's built them, he's designed them, etc. So,
and is not a member of their firm.
And is not a member of their firm. It
What's
would be
his
a
name?
subcontract. It is not a member of their firm.
I
It's
know,
a
but what's the
subcontracted
man's
firm.
name? Who checked out his qualifications?
I only have one. I was going to see if you're going to proceed. He has others that we could check out the qualifications on once we really want to design it. So I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt, take your idea, explore it, and you continue to still slam it down as not adequate. So I'm sorry it's not adequate.
Well,
I let you talk, let me talk. This is an engineering firm. They have ethics, they have licenses, they have responsibilities. They're not going to push a project because it's more expensive and they can get more fees. It doesn't work that way, and I'm sure he would not be happy to hear that accusation. So I'm sorry it wasn't what you wanted. It's what these guys needed to decide if this idea even makes any sense. But to put anything in the footprint of a Magalia Reservoir would be the biggest mistake this board ever made, because it would bite us in the butt multiple times.
How would you know if you don't look into it?
I am an engineer. I'm in this field. I read the rules, regs, everything. I know without looking into it, that's a stupid idea. I made the phone call to the regulatory agencies. I discussed it with them. I put some effort into this, trying to evaluate an idea you brought forward, and it's never enough. So next time you want an idea evaluated, I want a board vote on it. That's all I have to say.
Okay, why don't you pick up the phone sometime and call me about it and say, I'm looking at it this way. What do you think? A discussion over the telephone or something else between us would have helped a great deal. I didn't hear anything, and then I come in, I pick up the agenda, and I see engineering consultant, he's working sub for this other guy, and so forth. There's no communication. So I'm going, well, do I call him on the phone and complain? It's already done. I'll wait until the board meeting, because this is very important to me. And to me, it isn't fair. It's not properly done. From my opinion and from what I've read about these things and so forth, there are specialty firms that do it. This man is a good engineer for the concrete stuff, but I don't think it's a good suggestion for wetlands.
This is a sub-engineer that they're bringing in, a sub-consultant that specializes in these. It's what you're asking for. It's not the name, maybe, you don't even know if it's the names on your list.
What we're looking at, and George has immediately swept away the dam, so it's really not much looking into it or reporting on the specifics of it. It's my opinion, is what you've said. I don't think you're qualified as a civil engineer to do wetlands work. I don't know about the man that's coming from the firm, because you haven't said what his name is, his background, or his professional standing. That's important. So I'm going, oh, well, this was a nice idea, but this isn't it. And if the thing I gave to you, yes, there was a lot of engineered things in it. But if you go through, you'll find that other wetlands have been used in different states and different places.
I can't see how it wouldn't be an engineered wetlands. There's no way anybody is going to sign off if it's not an engineered wetlands.
Well,
you can't just run a pipe up to the top of the lake and say, hey, it was a wetland, so we just ran water through it, and that's clean. We call it clean.
Okay, how high is the pond that you're proposing in the park, the 10 acres? Niels, how high is it?
Well, above what?
I remember that elevation off the top of my head. It's substantially higher than the reservoir elevation now.
What, a couple hundred feet higher?
Probably be a safe assumption.
It might be that much.
Okay.
Are we talking about the 4 existing ponds that are there now?
No, I'm talking about the
They're
one
at
he's
least
proposing
200
in
foot
the
above the-
Koodalink Park.
Oh,
The other part of the proposal was to put in a waterfall sort of thing. My understanding is if you run water so many feet, you oxidate it, and you can help clean it up. And that was the idea of coming out of the wetland, wherever it was going to end up, and before it went down. Instead, we have pipes going from the wetlands to different designations. There's no taking advantage of the height to actually do some sort of oxygenation or another treatment of water. So I've said enough.
Okay. Was there any comment from the public on this? Lauren?
I think it's probably worth the $10,000 to find out before you spend $8 million. That's a very, very small percentage.
It's not what Bill wants to see, though. He's against spending the $10,000 on an engineered wetlands
No,
because he wants
I'd
to
spend
bring
it
it.
$10,000 if we hired a different firm, if we looked at it a different way.
Yeah, different.
Well, I'm gonna let you bring that to the board, on there. So, was that all you
I
had?
just had one quick question. It has a little bit to do with our discussion here. Are they taking, I know they have some expenses current. Are they going to take that out of their 113,000 that we okayed for them, or are they going to bill us?
No, because
No,
they
this
have to
isn't-
pay a specialist to come in
I
from
realize
a
that.
different firm.
Or we're going to have to pay for that.
That's why you're approving the additional expense.
Okay, but if we don't approve the additional expense,
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, they've already talked to another specialist, another firm, you said. At the time that they put in on it, are they going to take that out of their 113,000 or whatever it was?
Time
we
they
approve.
spent talking to the firm,
Yeah.
like hour or two.
Yeah, we approved
Possibly, I don't
$113,000.
know.
$113,000 is what we approved, round figures, right, Kevin? Mm-hmm. Are they going to, what the expenses they've incurred so far on this? Time, talent, and money, okay? Are they going to take it out of that 113, or where are they going to come from? Where is it going to come from? If we don't approve the 10,000.
Yeah, unlikely they'll charge an hour or two for the time it took to
$100.
contact the guy.
Above our 113.
Oh, no, they'll take it out of it.
Okay, 113.
That 113 is not to exceed. They can't exceed that. They can't exceed that 113
Yeah, that's
based
right.
on your
Yeah,
vote.
That's what they were locked into.
Correct.
And he knew what we were asking for before we agreed to that. with,
Right, it was-
the
we were
wetlands
asking for a different-
information, so it's included in on it.
Yeah, but we were asking for different criteria, a different deal.
We're not gonna get a bill for
This is above and beyond.
$113,200 because their
it's
contract
under that.
is not to exceed $113,000.
That's what I think.
So,
That's correct.
Well, I think before I would be feeling comfortable to approve the $10,000, even though Lauren was mentioning that, I'd rather we visit this again. I hate to keep bringing up a dead horse, if you want to call it a dead horse. That's an old ag term. But anyway, before I would approve that, I would rather have.
I'm gonna leave it to somebody and I'm gonna actually.
Because
say this. I'm gonna
there's
say
a
this
lot of
after.
work, there's a lot of work on wetlands. I've never done any work on wetland development out of a water treatment plant, but I have out of a sewer plant, and I have out of lagoons.
There is
like he's
proven
talking
technology on it. Let's get through this because
Let's
we've
do
got
it.
a lot of stuff to go on. Georgiana, would you please read back the original motion?
A motion by Director Hunt, second by Director Hunt, to not authorize the general manager to execute a contract amendment with Lee and Rowe for evaluation of engineered wetlands.
So a yes vote is for a no on the spending the $10,000. Roll call vote, please.
Director Fleschner?
A yes vote is not to spend the $10,000. Yes.
Correct.
Director Hunt?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
Director Beckett?
Yes.
President Correll?
Yes. The motion to not spend $10,000 is approved 5-0. I'm going to leave it up to you or Director Flesher, or a combination of the two of you, to come up with something that is equitable for the board. I agree with George that I don't think there's any other way that we're going to get through this than an engineered wetlands. And I also agree with George that I think Lee and Rowe are ethical enough to make the decision on whether or not this is.
To me, it's not a question of ethics. It's a question that they're not the specialists. They're hiring another
They were,
firm.
they were hiring a subspecialist. So,
Right. Somebody else.
We're trusting them to, with an $8 million project, to get us the best that we can, but we're not trusting them to
It's-
find a wetlands engineer.
No, it isn't a matter of trust. It's a matter that the wetland engineer reports directly to us. I don't know why we have to hire him through another firm.
You got some names on your book. I'm going to leave it up to you to find the wetlands engineer and what it's going to cost us to do it, and then bring it.
I'll bring something back to next month's agenda.
And then that would be
This
perfect.
is done for tonight.
That's okay. Thank you. That's what I would like to see.
And as you suggested, Mr. President, I'll do a little bit with Kellogg.
We can do some research on it. But I do agree with George in that he spent time and did what was asked.
But one of the
I
things.
agree with you that it wasn't what you exactly wanted, but I agree that there's no other way to get through this than an engineered wetlands. You can call it whatever you want, but engineered is going to be the term that is going to be no matter how you slice it.
Well,
So-
I'll, since we're kind of continuing to discuss the same topic and another motion could be made, I'm not going to be interested in turning any part of the existing water storage area of Magalia Dam into a wetlands. So if the property is off to the side of it somewhere, then I could listen to that.
I don't think they're going to allow us to. I don't think they're going to allow us to play in the property of the lake in the first place. So I don't think that's going to be an option.
Where I'm coming
I'm
from-
fully in agreement with George. I do not think they're going to allow us to play in the property of the lake with a wetlands. It's going to have to be off-site, no matter.
They're very tight on that.
But we're going to move on because we're going to move on.
Let me interject one thing. One of the things I'm coming, when I was holding this book for, I have from the archives at Paradise Post an article I've shared with these people here, and it has to do with the history of this district from 1980 to 1989, and it's quite an interesting one. And one of the things that happened, and I've never talked about any other boards, even though I'm on 4 more, you never talk about it. They do the best they can. We're doing the best we can this evening, the same way. But they made a gross error in not figuring out something for the long run. And there's part of it you can see up here, and we're going to be putting a sign on it later, I hope. And so I'm after the long-term resolving of this. Because if you don't, you're pouring good money after bad. And when we go to 218 and start talking about it, and this thing we're going to be voting on yet tonight, and the Citizens, whatever that is, Alliance, on here. So even if it costs a little bit more money, I want something that's going to, they had to rechange this, and I'll share that with anybody that wants it, within 5 years.
We have a break.
But anyway, so that's where I'm coming from, okay? And I love wetlands.
Thank you, Director Fletcher. I'm going to move for a 7-minute recess. We will reconvene at 8:35.
You're doing well. He generally gives us 2 minutes.
2 minutes. We're going to reconvene at 8:37, and we are going to move on to item number 8A, which is Community Relations Resource Document, since we have Mark and Tanya here. Review and consider adopting the document prepared for the Paradise Irrigation District titled A Roadmap to Excellence in Community Relations. I think we all read this. It is an excellent document. My hat's off to you guys. So beautiful. You know, when I started on that committee, and we started this, I didn't think it was going to wind up with this. As I read through it, it was fantastic. The public survey that's in there, fantastic. I really couldn't find too much. I understand it's been nitpicked to death, but I don't think I didn't see anything. Nothing jumped out at me as something that we wanted, that we didn't address, that we left unaddressed.
You mean hunt pet?
So I think that it was a great document, and I don't know if we need to spend a lot of time on it unless there's.
I have one
A lot
question.
of comments or questions on it.
I have one question. Why are there 10 blank sheets?
We had a little presentation.
Right, no, I know you want to do. No, I
If you
just.
guys want it, if you don't want it,
No.
that's fine.
No, I do want. I don't think it requires a lot from us.
I had
The blank pages?
Why are there 10 blank pages?
They actually said at the bottom of them why they're there.
For bookbinding reasons. Why?
Sometimes reports are like this are kept on file on paper, and so you would always have that indicating, so that you have each new thing
Starting with a new one? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the book.
I do that for
The explanation at the bottom of the page was one of Ken's additions to the report.
But,
We
the
won't pay
one
for-
I always see
We won't
is
pay
this.
for any blank pages.
This is the one I always see is this page has been left blank intentionally.
Yeah.
Intentionally, not for bookbinding.
Well, Mark, Tanya, if it's a team effort, you want to do the presentation? That'd be great. Thank you for coming tonight too.
Well,
Say that.
I'm Mark, she's Tanya, we're Cedar Creek, and we want to thank the board and the staff for having us here tonight. Chuck was up here and he was talking about the PCA survey. happened last night to take it, and I knew that the length of the survey was really important. It couldn't be too long. So I told him it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds. So he quoted that. I overheard you quoting the length of the break was 8 minutes and 50 some odd seconds.
Yeah.
So we will try to keep this somewhere between 8 seconds and 15, 20 minutes. So whatever it is, we'll keep it to a limit. But anyway, so this thing started with kind of a charge from the board. I guess the board committee started it, and then the board asked us to take on the project of doing a public relations plan. And we immediately started by talking with board members, we talked with staff members, we talked to them individually, we talked with them in groups, because frankly, neither Tanya nor myself knew much about PID except that you're the water company. And we learned a terrific amount in that interaction. First of all, it's pretty cool to see an entity that's been on the ridge for more than 100 years, and you've seen things come and go. I remember the POA, for example, going through their debacle up there some years ago, and they're back on track now. But it's really cool to see this thing survive that many years. The longevity alone is exciting. And I think then, too, to see the role that the public plays in PID is pretty incredible. I think today, largely, government is kind of disconnected from the public that they serve. And it's just the opposite here at PID. And I think, too, what's exciting for me is to see how well things work when you let the public own the utility. You get board members that come to work prepared, ready to do the district's job. The board hires a general manager that comes and builds this thing into an excellent entity and keeps it going. And I know, Doug, you mentioned mistakes get made. They do. And that's one of the things, too, that we're trying to do with this public, what started out as a public relations plan, is to take a long-term view. Up to this point, in the first 100 years, PID never really had to think too much about its relationship with its customers. But I think we're entering our second 100 years, and it's a different environment today than it was back when this was started. We have the Tea Party Patriots here tonight. I guess they're here every board meeting taping this, which I think is an excellent idea because the public doesn't come out in the evening after work for 2 or 3 hours to participate like they used to in days gone by. And it's really critical, I think, especially at this juncture, to have the public's participation. That's one of the things that we really picked up clearly from the work that we did with the staff and the board and the interviews that we were able to do. What we learned early on was that the destination we were looking at with this project was not so much public relations as it was community relations. And Ken, being the detail man, that was a question that he asked specifically about a couple of meetings ago. And we realized that was a very important question. And so we'll eliminate that a little bit tonight, just to make clear why public relations is so much more important than community relations. Thank you. CR is more important than PR. All right, very good. We also realized it was just premature, once we understood the structure and how things work here, it was premature to present a plan for public relations or community relations because the board controls the organization ultimately, and the committees and the staff propose things in a general sense. That's how it works. The board doesn't do the day-to-day stuff, but anything that's new coming through the pipeline, and there's lots of opportunities for good puns when you're working with an irrigation district. I like that. But the board is responsible for those things, and we couldn't create something that the board approved of. So we changed our tack, and we went into something where we thought we would create a roadmap. We try to come up with a lot of the possibilities, present them to the board, and then the Community Relations Committee, the newly renamed Community Relations Committee, is going to take the burden of using this roadmap and making it work in terms of community relations outcomes for PID down the road. So we're not making a plan. This isn't a plan, but there will be plans coming forth from the Community Relations Committee as time passes. My time up yet? No. Almost. Okay. So roadmaps get you where you want to go, but you have lots of options to get there, and that's what's good about this, because we couldn't be specific without board approval of every point. Now the board can look at the smorgasbord, the roadmap, and choose from that as we go along. So you basically have to keep your destination in mind when you're following your roadmap. That's what you keep in mind. And one of the things that's important for community relations is messaging and branding. Okay, repetition and consistency are really important. And you can't have good community relations without messaging and branding. And what's kind of unique about PID is that there are so many different points where PID interfaces with the public. You've got your customer service representatives in the office. You've got your general manager talking to Rotary. You've got board members that speak, constituents, whatever. You've got staff members. You've got the guy out there with the work crew, and the customers coming up and yelling at them because the dirt's tracking in their driveway. So there's a lot of opportunity for inconsistency in the messaging. And what we're trying to accomplish here is to be consistent over time and to achieve a goal over time for PID. So clarity is important, and effectiveness of the content and the medium are also critical. But what's really super important is the messaging and the branding. And we were talking about it this time tonight today at the office, and we came up with a good example, I think, of messaging and branding. So you see this behind you. You know what to do. Everybody knows that. Let's talk about this for just a second. Okay. What's the message here?
Hit the throttle.
Hit the throttle. No. Fail. Pull over.
Pull over, yes.
All right. What's the brand? Paradise Police, CHP. This is not the guy from Mountain Mike's. You know that. Okay? How did they achieve this? They achieved it through messaging over time and through branding.
Consistency.
Okay? Consistency, repetition, repetition, repetition. So that's what we hope to be able to bring to PID in the coming months and years, is to get them used to being consistent and repetitive about their messaging that's going out. Okay. So we came up with, as a preliminary message and brand, we came up with Our Water, Our Future. This has gone through some committee massaging and individual input and so forth, and it's been pretty well received at this point, I think. So let's talk about the message real quick. What's the message here? It's not pull over. The message is, it's our water. Exactly. It's our water, and it's our future. So there's two elements there. And water is becoming increasingly known in the media and so forth as being exceedingly important and valuable. 50 years ago, well, when this thing started, they weren't even metering anything. It's just like, you need some water for your orchard? No problem. You can have it on a certain day at a certain time. So water is very important, and as time passes, we find more and more constraints personally in our own homes, in terms of conservation and so forth, as well as an entity like this. I mean, we've been to a few board meetings in the last few months, and it's mind-boggling to the average consumer to see what you people are asked to and required to expend in order to meet so many requirements from various agencies and so forth. So it's big doings, it's big money, and it's important, I think, that the community continue to be involved and so forth in the future. And it protects, I think, the more community involvement we have, the more protection this agency has to move into the future successfully. We don't want a day to come when one of the board members decides not to run and nobody steps forward to take their place. And we can see that sort of day coming if we're not careful. We've seen it in our lodges, we've seen it in our churches, we've seen it in our social organizations and so forth, PTAs and whatnot. So we feel it's really critical to PID to continue to have a good level of participation and knowledge on the part of the public. So this is our messaging and our brand. The brand, of course, is Paradise Irrigation District, and the message is simply Our Water, Our Future. Now, you'll note that even the typeface that's being used is important. Take a look at the R, and the W's kind of got curved descenders on it. In the past, this might be taken and the colors might be changed, and someone else might type it on their computer and it would look different. Maybe the wording would get changed, and maybe they'd say PID instead of spelling it out. These things all become important if you're going to have consistency in your branding and your message. So that's just an example of the type of work that we hope to be able to do with PID in the coming months and years. So you always want to keep your destination in mind, And you want to keep your roadmap handy, and that's what the purpose really is of this document that we created. So is PAD going in the right direction in terms of its relationship with the community? And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Tanya, and she's going to get into some of the nuts and bolts of... There's one more, sure. Here we go. There's a compass. Ta-da. Okay, the roadmap is the guide. That's where I step out, Tanya steps in. Okay.
Okay, this next part is, what are you pointing at here? This is awesome. Wow, I never get the clicker. Guys always have the clickers, you know.
Did you do the soap to find it?
Isn't ESPN on right now or something?
What's the big deal about community relations? Okay, why community relations instead of public relations? And it is a big deal. It's not just gilding the lily. It's not just renaming something. When you look at public relations, it's a message that goes out, okay? It's, listen to us, we're good, let me tell you about us. It's just to a passive group of people, to a passive audience of some sort. You're sure you're enhancing the district's image, you're telling them the information, but you're not asking for any input going back and forth. In contrast, community relations is the whole community, and it's a conversation going back and forth between the district and its community. When the district is solving problems, you have volunteers who come here. You're looking at different areas. They're coming to the board of directors. The board is the one that makes those decisions, certainly, but that communication with the public is what's important, and so that's what makes it community relations, because it's that back and forth. Increasingly, we see social media. People are into social now, and it's not just because they like the little blue thing on bird of Twitter and the F on Facebook. It's because we want to connect, and not only do we want to just hear stuff being thrown at us, but we want to have an opportunity to give feedback. So our community relations roadmap addresses those areas so that we can give that information out and get it coming back to see how it's being received. And that helps us tailor what we're going to be doing. But how's this whole thing going to work? Okay, so you got that big document that's there on your iPads or whatever. How is it really going to work the way the organization works? First of all, let me assure you the board is in the driver's seat, okay? That's what's going to happen, okay? The board is here in the driver's seat. But the Community Relations Committee, which used to be the Public Relations Committee, good move, mixing it, changing it over to Community Relations. Community Relations Committee is the engine, okay? They're the ones that are going to get the motion, get the stuff going that the board has told it to do. But the board is in charge. The board is behind the wheel, behind the driver's seat. Community Relations Committee is the district's resource to meet the needs. They're going to work closely with other committees to meet their needs as it relates to community relations. And they may make recommendations to the board as well. For example, you might have the Recreation Lake Committee doing something about trails or about a fishing derby, or the Conservation Committee may want to have messaging. Those things would come to the Community Relations Committee for, again, that consistency in branding and messaging. We're going to use that same idea, that same concept, but it's always going to be used with consistency. Key message examples, there are, let me see, page, I think in your document that you have, page 4, there are several of these key messages. I just pulled a few of these off that are carried through within the roadmap. I didn't want to lay everything on you here. But you can see there's the ownership of the district, various messages that you can have. In addition, excellent community relations, what's it going to do for the district? Okay. You guys are board members. Do you like it when these people are like this when they come see you? Okay. It's going to prepare customers better for future rate hikes and or the funding of capital improvements, because they're going to understand why those things are needed. They're going to have a voice in how it happens. They're going to increase water conservation, decrease water usage. Everybody's going to be happy, okay? It's going to create a sense of teamwork and common purpose between the customers, the employees, the board, the staff, all about our local water issues. That's the community relations part of the whole thing. In addition, it'll overcome misconceptions about the water system. Is it really leaky like this? And develop strong, reliable media partnerships over there, okay? Those are the things it can do. We also listed several others. I believe it's on page 2 and 3. There are more examples of what the specifics of what it is. PID directors now have the roadmap for excellence in community relations. Where we go with it, our water, our future, and that's it. Did you folks have any questions or anything for us tonight?
So I just wanted to say something like, so basically what we have here is a toolbox. You know, it's a toolbox that the board will go to. The board may ask the Community Relations Committee to take a look at our toolbox and come up with some ideas about how to get a concept across or to start working on a project. Maybe that the Water Conservation Committee will come to the board and say, this is what we want to do. Now, how are we going to get this message out? And so the board, if we agree that that's the message, may then go back and say, okay, well, now let's go to the Community Relations Committee and go to your toolbox and let's figure out where we want to be, or how we're going to spend money. Are we going to try to get free communication? But that's what it is. It was designed so it's a working, living tool, reference material that we'll go back to. It's got the roadmap, it's got instructions, it's got some ideas, but it's still up to the committee and the board to formulate the plan based upon the suggestions we have in the toolbox.
I agree with Ken wholeheartedly.
How often do you tune up the committee, since they're the engine?
We're that new model 15 now.
Can we get the 3.0 one?
Yeah, I think that Ken's idea of the toolbox is really excellent. And right now it's full of either Snap-on or Proto. So it's top of the line, I think, on here. It's a great analogy.
They did a great job for us. They helped a lot.
I'd just like to say what a great job you guys did.
One of the concerns I've had, as a new member on the board, before whatever kind of rate increase we have to go after, because we're going to have to go after it, we know, eventually, and this is going to really help us.
That's what we hope to do.
I want to say how great you guys work as a team. The first time that I knew of you guys, I had never sat down and talked to you after we had our first conversation. I came away and I just said, how fortunate we are to have you in our community, number one, and want to participate in what we're asking you to participate in here with us. How fortunate and blessed we were. It was amazing that I just came away and I just went, well, that was a great decision right there. Wherever we go forward in this, it's a great decision. You have proved that with this document alone. Is definitely just a monumental step in where we wanted to go with this. So I can't say enough good things. I was reading it and I was just like, a couple years ago when we were talking about this and just, do we need to do this? Or is it somewhere we want to go? All the ideas, if I had any doubts, they were gone long ago, and you just proved it once again. So just awesome.
You guys are great to work with.
Excellent job.
We're real picky about the clients we take on a long-term basis, and you guys have been, more than just do a newsletter or do a postcard or something. You guys have been really good to work with, and we believe in it. Our office is 3 driveways down. We walk up here to the meetings.
And we use a lot of water. So.
That's exactly what I mean. We're fortunate to have you in our community, so close. You're not coming from Chico or from out of the area. You actually have a genuine vested interest in what we're talking about and what we want to do. And that's great. You were probably one of the first people to do the Speak Up Paradise since it was released last night. And you already had your thing, and I imagine you were waiting for the
websites.
I was going to say the countdown, but it was like 5, 4, 3. Okay, start. Well, thank you again.
As a new kid on the block here, or in the circle anyway, this should really enhance our ability to put our 218 across. What do you think?
It'll be getting our message out ahead of
218. Everybody, you know what the 218 is. That's where we have to go to the ratepayers and get approval.
Rate increase.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so any comments from the public?
Can I comment on something that Ken said? And please don't take this as a criticism, but Ken, you kind of said you got to use this as kind of the way I interpreted it. You brainstorm. Maybe there's a lot of ideas in here. An issue comes up, you use this to brainstorm. And the one thing I want to remind the board of is the ideas in here deserve investigation, but some of the items we may not be able to. And the reason for that is the district is a special purpose district. You're a water district, provide water. And because you're kind of limited in what your hours are, you're also limited in your ways that you can spend money. So, you would contrast PID with the town, for example, that has much looser rules on how it can spend its money. So, just a reminder that just because an idea may be listed in here may not necessarily mean that it's something we can implement.
Yes, that was good to bring up because we brought that up also. And what we came away with was the fact that, well, there are other water districts in California that are doing something like that. So it's just an idea. Well, we'll find out. But some of those things are exactly like you say, but they're there for warranting further investigation. If we wanted to venture down that road, we would need to do our research, vet it, make sure that it's appropriate before the committee would come back and say, yes, we can go forward. But we didn't want to leave those things out of the toolbox at this time without having the investigation done. But they were great ideas, and since there was evidence that they were used, maybe that we cannot do it, maybe we can, but that's why they're in the toolbox.
I think unfortunately there's so many choices that we can use before we get to the ones we can't use that we have a lot of avenues and venues we can go to.
Dustin, we got rid of a lot of other ones that you never saw. So
it's been thinned considerably.
But don't you think that if there is things in here that we can't do, they shouldn't be in here?
And we can adjust the document as time goes by.
Yeah, it's,
okay, how many?
This is not what
we're
we're
make
doing.
a lot of these, and
it's going to be up to the board. Larry.
well,
He's going to be sitting over there
I don't
saying,
think we're producing this for the public. This is for us.
oh, okay, I thought we were.
This is your guidebook to, if I phrase that right.
Okay.
I use
I thought we were
roadmap.
gonna produce
I'm
it
going
for
to
everybody.
phrase it differently. So that it's our guidebook to what we should look at as we want to address the community.
Okay, I have no problem with the 10 blank pages then.
I know. and I like this is not a print item for. Yeah,
I thought it was going to be.
We're not making 10,500 copies of this and passing it out on there.
Okay.
The only part of it I think that will be passed out in something similar like that, which will probably be more of a web-based item, is the survey. So that would be an item that we would probably print and have here on hand for anybody who didn't want to take it online.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Do you want to move it?
No, that's okay.
You guys run that committee.
Oh, I know. We're prejudiced about
Okay,
it.
go, Bill.
I move approval to authorize the general manager to execute the agreement with Cedar Creek Communications for community relations consulting, which happens to be the next thing on the agenda.
Yeah, that's.
I'll second that.
There we go. Okay,
But
all right.
it says action may be taken on 8A.
That's the wrong agenda item.
Yeah, you're on the wrong agenda item.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's all right.
You're gonna be one down, but
Got a second,
I'm
Larry.
sorry, I was
Yeah, but you're on the wrong agenda.
just make a motion for the community relations resource document to be accepted, adopted as the document prepared for the Paradise Irrigation District.
That's your motion.
That sounds good. That's my motion.
Second.
That was good, right off the cuff.
Right here.
Yeah, I'll second that one. Because there's another one
All
before
in favor, say aye.
it. You got another motion before it, though.
Do we have to do that one before?
Wasn't seconded.
We haven't gotten to that topic yet, have we?
Bang your
It
gavel.
was out of order, so what, oh, yeah.
So, okay, what do I want to do?
Motion was out of order?
Yeah,
It drops because it's out of order.
order. Okay, exactly. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you. Great presentation and excellent document. Now, I think without further ado, we can make,
Well, wait, I want to talk about
okay, so
before we vote.
let's go ahead and we're going to go on to item 8B.
How much do we have in the budget for this? for the next fiscal year?
For community relations,
Uh-huh.
I'd have to go back and look.
Oh.
I'm not.
I think I remembered $5,000 the first
Six,
time.
I thought was what.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
We moved that to 350,000.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
Well, all this contract that's before you is authorizing to bring them on board. I will utilize them as a resource under under my authority.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this meeting, that meeting, this project, anything that's going to get big, they will bring a proposal specifically for that, and you will have an opportunity.
And these will be projects or documents
I
that
was-
you create or the CR committee.
Because I was wondering if we should have a not to exceed, but if that's the case, then we don't need that.
They're not going to be sitting 3 doors down collecting dollars when they're not working for us.
We're just using lots of water.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Mark's thought of a different way to give us money, you know,
We'll
so.
give them free water and they do it for free.
Mark's invested in a high-tech timing system that is going to allow us to recoup some of our dollars. So,
Now you can make it, Bill.
Now,
Bill.
Bill, you can do it.
Oh,
now back to,
Unless
I
somebody
move
wants
approval
to
to
talk.
authorize the general manager to execute the agreement with Cedar Creek Communications for community relations consulting.
Second.
Oh, he
you got
seconded.
seconds coming from all
We
directions.
got 3 seconds.
We have
Okay.
3 seconds.
All right.
Sounds like we're going to get a yes vote.
Any comments from the public?
All the seconds are going to vote.
Any other comments from directors? No? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
We look forward to working with everybody.
We do too.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very
again.
much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
I think we get the better end of the deal. So,
Oh, we get to leave.
thank you so much. Thank you, exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much again, guys.
Well, see you tomorrow at the water tour.
Okay.
Okay, item C, I believe is where we're at next. Demonstration vegetable garden. Manager Barber, Director Flesher, consider approval to support a demonstration vegetable garden. Authorize the district personnel to prepare on-site for winter. Fantastic idea.
You can see on the map, this is the location we're talking about. There's about a 3-foot buffer behind the retaining wall that's on PID property, our corporate property, that we have planting requirements for our project. But behind that is a clearing that is on PID-owned property that is associated with the rental house. This idea came up through the Water Conservation Committee, ultimately through a subcommittee of them. It's something that the end game goal is to get volunteers to
One of our customer
develop
service
this
reps.
with some customer relations efforts to make sure there's proper signage, etc., to show the community best practices in the vegetable garden. And all we need now, so that we can kind of prep this and you're not approving the whole concept idea or anything, that's going to take half day to a day of an operator, maybe a spotter, to clear the top lot, dig it down 1.5 to 2 feet, churn it up, prepare it. I think I could get Doug to help give me some better parameters on what he's after, and then put a cover crop on it.
Right. Actually, this idea came through staff member Karen from Dr. DePietro. Bob was the one that suggested that we have something like that. And this is actually an ideal spot, and there are many, many, many little parcels like that in the Paradise community for the people who have vegetable gardens on. And there's ample sun there. I've been watching it, and what we would like to do is we would go in and subsoil it before the heavy rains hit, and then plant it with a cover crop. And this is the seed. This is from Kellogg Seed Service, and it's a cover crop made up of legumes and grasses, and if we get a good stand, it'll look beautiful out there, and it'll get us going, and then it'll get us all winter as our committee to work on what we want to put in there, deer being one item and all of that.
I was looking for some sunflower seeds.
It's like trail.
I haven't personally talked to Bob, although I know him real well. I was kind of waiting to see what we come up with, and then I'll talk to him and tell him that we're going to
can
go
be
ahead
that,
with
if
it.
you don't
If
cover
it's
it.
agreeable with you people. And the whole secret would be to demonstrate everything about a garden, and then from our end, proper watering techniques. And on our subcommittee, we have Belinda here, George, myself, and Dan Alves, who is one of the leading vegetable producers in our community. And it should be a fun type of a project.
I have a question. Are we going to keep track of our costs?
We'll keep track of all the costs, plus a picture. Turn it over to the next page. That's a picture.
But I was thinking too, I'm a water meter for it.
Yes. But George suggested we're going to come off of the house with a line, because it'll only be 100, and we'll put a meter there.
Right, so we can keep track of what it would cost a person.
At the time he's watering it.
Exactly.
Right.
It'll be a huge plot of
Now,
land
the other
too,
thing
so it would
is
be.
security.
Huh?
Security.
We've already
Not from
discussed
deer,
that.
From.
Well, that's a big problem, but if we go in and work it, the reason for subsoiling it is to open the ground up and get aeration and moisture.
I'm talking about when we finally have a crop.
And then we're gonna have to talk about deer. See, we could put corn in on that and we wouldn't have one deer problem.
No, but you
With
might
squash
have,
in, they lead it to the ground.
He's talking about kids.
I'm talking about kids.
He's talking about kids.
Adults too.
Oh, adults.
We'll
yeah,
need-
that's
we already talked about a fence option that we would need to do.
See, they just said that they're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars of walnuts in Chico.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. Wild.
They-
Walnuts are worth a lot more than this
supervisors just passed
garden
a
is.
law.
Well, they just pull up to the walnut, the walnut dryer, and they just drove off with the entire
I'm
truck.
talking,
Right.
as
So,
far as, like George was saying, it's gonna be all volunteer. And I know I've talked to a bunch of 4-H kids already on it, and.
Well, let me ask you this, why does it have to be vegetable? There was Bill's idea here about native grasses and plants and bushes. And
that's still gonna be
we
down
could-
this way.
We could, are we gonna show that on here also? Or?
That's
Well, if you
down,
look-
that's over in this area right
You
here.
remember back when this plan was developed by the building committee, there's a serpentine path that has to get built.
Right.
In that area and all down in here and in these planters was going to be that type of planting, ornamental, native
Identify
types.
with little plaques or
Identifier
something.
plaques.
We're gonna be showing that as well as the
Okay,
garden.
so we got it both covered.
I think DePietro actually suggested a vegetable garden, that people could put in.
And then, like it said in our packet, donations to different food banks that are in town would be a great way to.
All of that,
We're showing people, hey, we are using some water to do this and a little bit of resources, but then we're giving some stuff to the community.
One of the things that we have as a problem would definitely be deer, and that's just something we're going to have to either fence or we'll figure something. But one of the nice things about it, driving up and down Clark Road, if we can get a stand, and I don't think we'll have any problems with that, do you, Bill? Getting a stand, it'll look nice all winter, and it'll give us plenty of time to plant.
Get a stand?
Stand. The plants, the seed that I brought down. If we have
It's a
problem-
term we use in
Cover crop.
agriculture
It's
all
an
the
ag
time.
thing.
It means we have a good growth of lots of plants, and they're growing well, and that's called a stand.
Oh.
When you get it weak and don't get a stand, it means you have
I
holes
thought
in
you were
the
going to
field.
put in a fruit stand.
And these,
No fruit stand. And then what we would
the
do
stuff
with
they're
this,
talking about is rich in nitrogens, which will help
All right.
the soil
what
for.
we would do with this crop, most likely say like in April, we'll go in and mow it and plow it in. That's called a plow.
And that enriches the soil for the stuff you really want to
All
grow.
the above.
Beautiful. Our ag masters will be,
Yeah, and whatever seed it takes of the cover crop, I'll donate, but I do not sell vegetable seeds. So, anyway.
well, we've got the birdseed crop. We'll
Yeah, you got the
right?
birdseed.
You can take them as a charitable contribution.
I'm always ready with the
Oh,
seeds.
okay.
I would entertain a
Might amount to
motion
$5.
on item C.
I move we
We're looking at now.
approve
Cherry tomatoes.
to support the demonstration vegetable garden and authorize the use of district personnel to prepare the site for winter.
I'll second it.
Any more discussion from the public? Questions?
And
Linda?
volunteers.
And volunteers. Okay, that's not a forced thing. We're not quite the draft. We just got to cover the ones that we got to do there. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes 5-0.
I'll report back. to
Thank
Bob.
you,
We're
everybody.
approving
I
this
think that's
and
going to be a
we're
great thing. I
If you see, but we're.
appreciate everybody's support on that.
He's there.
Okay, left a best one for last, Northern Sacramento Valley Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. And basically, this looks to me like we are just going to authorize, or we are going to talk about authorizing you to release a letter on here. And since we're not really authorizing you to do anything except give them a general idea of what we are.
So the bottom line is, we put projects into this plan, and if you want those projects to stay in the plan, you have to support the plan.
Exactly.
Officially, by a letter of support.
And these are all things that we chose, if I remember right.
We put in.
I've got two questions. Project 36 drought supply project. What exactly is the proposal for? That's a
drought supply project. There's
drought supply project. It's very generic. There's no option chosen. Nothing.
No options or anything chosen. Okay. And the Paradise Bladder Dam, which we've had some problems with.
Did I say Paradise Lake?
No, it's up at the Paradise Lake. Paradise Bladder Dam.
They may have shortened it to get it in their box.
But at any rate, we had some problems with the Bureau of Dam Safety on the requirements and so forth, and we were left up in the air on it. So we don't know if that'll ever go through.
I actually think on the Bladder Dam, we were given clear direction of what their expectations were. We just weren't willing to spend the money on the EIR document.
When they told us
the water rights EIR.
Yeah, and wasn't it too, when they proposed that we could take the water would be essentially a time when there wasn't water coming in enough to fill the thing up in the first place. So the time when we need it is December through March. Would I be correct?
But all those things need to be developed by a engineer of that expertise, and all of those were just initial thoughts of DSOD, and it doesn't mean that was their final decision.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is merely, if we don't put some projects in there, we're out. We have 0 projects or...
In my personal opinion is if your projects aren't in this plan, you're never going to get a grant dollar.
Yeah. So we said, correct me if I'm wrong, for example. Well, you're not going to let us do a Magalia Dam replacement, bless you, and you're not going to give us a bladder dam, but then we're going to have, then our alternative is to look at a drought supply there, and we're going to aggressively go after a grant for that.
No, it doesn't really work that way.
So it's not a pick, it's not, we can't help you here and here. And
every grant opportunity has specific requirements, and all of these projects will be eligible. They're ranked, and those ranks can be improved over time with better explanation, etc. But it's not one or the other. It's what does this project fit for what a grant is requesting.
Okay.
And you'll make that grant application, and one of the questions is always going to be, is this project included in your integrated regional water management plan? And if you check no, you might as well not waste your time.
So
by leaving them in there, we're just leaving options. It doesn't commit us to anything. It doesn't, we're not applying for anything. We're not picking a project. We're not asking for a project. It's just putting things in there so that if something comes available, we could go and apply for a grant that may be related to it.
I move to authorize the general manager to sign and deliver the letter of support to the Northern Sacramento Valley IRW WM plan.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Any comments from the public? Questions? All in favor say aye. 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 Passes 5. Bill, was that yes?
No, it's no.
No? Okay.
Because there's a couple of things in there I don't think we should have, but I'm not going to.
Passes 4-1.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, George. We took our board recess, so we are going to move past that. Treasurer's report.
Okay, yeah, my written report. Our cash is sitting at about $5.2 million. All of the water sales are pretty much right on budget from prior year. They're about average. Obviously, our quantity charges are up this last couple months just because of the weather. But the service charge and everything's right on budget. Where operational expenses are right on budget also. And our capital improvement programs are flowing right along. Obviously, the Courtyard's the big one that's been taking a lot of our resources, and most of those resources are right now are just labor. So I apologize for the kind of the small report. I was trying to integrate the budget into the report, so I kind of had to throw some things in there and kind of eliminate pages, but this is not what's going to happen into the future. I'll have more time to develop something that's a little more comprehensive. So
I had some comments about that.
yeah, so
So do I.
this won't be what you see on the regular ones, but it was just the one that I got
Item number
put
5,
together.
You're talking about the changes that we made in the budget.
Yeah, so I was making those changes, and then by the time that was it was like a couple days before the board. And
We're going to give you a mulligan on this one.
thank you, I appreciate that. But I'll answer any questions if you have any.
I do.
Larry, please.
On iPad 132, you have the percent of the budget, actual budget to the budget.
Oh, do I?
Yeah, which is okay with me. On the second page, you have the reverse. 87% used, it looks like.
So say that one more time.
On iPad 33, you say that we're 87% of the budget is used up.
Okay,
So,
I see what you're saying.
yeah,
No, really.
so we're almost out of
Mulligan.
Yeah, I'm going the opposite direction.
One
Okay.
went one way and one went the
Yeah, it's
other.
percent remaining.
Which way is it supposed to go?
Normally we do actual to budget. So
Percent of budget used?
So we should only be at the 27 since we just started our fiscal year.
Yeah, well, it should be 16.77 would be the month one. Yeah.
right, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Good catch, thank you.
I was gonna call you today, but
That's okay.
I had to repossess a car, and I've been busy with that.
You're always on adventure.
Director Kellogg, did you have any questions for Kevin?
No, not until we get to the check register. I don't
Okay.
have any questions.
Director Hunt?
Well, I want my reports back.
They'll be coming.
Okay.
Question answered.
Your report's back.
Director Flesher, did you have any questions for Kevin on his
Oh, you
report?
gave them to?
The monthly reports.
So other than for the item number 5 on the updated budget, which he's gonna do, for the changes we made on the budget.
Oh, yeah. Okay, but that's
You know,
next,
we put
next
the
month,
8,
not
we
now.
put the 8 million over to,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
and then we
Yes.
put in 0.2 or 200,000
We'll
coming
see
out
that
of
next
cap
month.
You'll get it in the next
capacity
week.
fees.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys passed it, so
Yeah.
you're just going to receive a copy.
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Second.
Great, I got a second. All in favor, say aye.
I wanted to discuss it.
I want to just, I'll kill you.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye. Did I get 5 there? Okay.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Approval of the August checks. I know we all have some questions in there. So I'm going to start with Director Duncan.
Oh, good. I figured everyone.
Yeah, I was watching you.
have so-
See, you looked nervous. You were flicking pages
I have
there,
so
so that's why I
few.
chose you.
I have so few, I figured I wouldn't get anything to say. Okay, the first one is on page 140, and it's property tax.
Yeah, we pay property tax on the 2 rentals.
The 2 rentals, but my question is this the first installment?
First installment, yeah.
Why are we paying it so early?
Well, that's just the way we
I'm just
decided.
curious. I always wait to the last minute to
Because
pay
we don't
mine.
want to wait till the last minute.
Okay.
Someone
Okay,
might
so-
forget.
Might
Isn't this our
forget,
first
but
quarter anyway? Wouldn't this?
It's not due till
It's not
December.
December 10th, and then after December 10th, there's a 10%.
Okay, I thought that was it,
I
but
don't know.
because of the timing, I thought I might be wrong. Okay, the next one is on 141. My machine all messed up. The vendor is Collins Consolidated Electric.
So, yeah.
It tells what you bought, but it doesn't say what it's for. What job it's for.
That's for the courtyard.
For the corporate, I thought it was, but I just wanted to make sure.
There are electrician, contractor.
I thought it was, but I just wanted to make sure it was for the corporate yard.
Yeah, it kind of cut it off there.
Okay. 144, well, that was the lawyer. You didn't give us a breakdown of that.
Oh, I have it printed right here too.
Gave it to you, didn't come get it.
I didn't come get it.
Yeah.
What? It isn't delivered?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Oh,
Let's see. I think. Boy. Oh, yeah, there's one left. On page 149. Who is it? Water Solutions Replacement Pump. Where was that for?
That pump station?
$6,800.
Or A?
That one I don't remember. It's a treatment plant.
Treatment plant, huh? Okay. Didn't say, so that's why.
We had lots of pumps up there, and I don't remember that one.
Is that the one they had a pump go out and they bought another one in case that pump goes out?
Yeah, I thought that went through already. Though.
Backup pump?
But that was on the board I think that was last month.
Yeah, could be that one. Sump pump backup.
No, on the last meeting?
Yeah, didn't you?
Jim,
it was
give us a
replacement pump in case that pump went out, so they had it on the shelf.
That's what it was. Okay. That's all I had.
Because weren't we renting a pump or something like that, or?
No, we had one break, and it was hard to get parts.
That was it.
And
If we ran out, we were in trouble.
we needed to have a backup.
It was a big expense if we had to get a rental, that's what it was. Okay, I know there was something about a rental. Larry, any more?
That's all.
Director Flesher?
I haven't found it in here. I looked once before. But how much of that 113,000 do we have? Or how much have we paid them? What have they billed us for? Is it in there? I'm sure it is. I just didn't find it.
Lee and Road.
Yeah, I just approved their latest bill, but I don't remember the number.
Don't remember the number?
Here it is. Here's Lee and Rowe, bottom of page 143.
Okay, I knew it was in there.
5,960.
How much
We
was
still
it?
got quite a
Which I
bit
think
left.
was actually our initial.
Yeah, that would have been for the month prior.
That was for the month prior. I was going to say we'd already knew that number.
Yep.
Okay,
That's all I have.
that was it. Director Hunt.
Pass.
Director Kellogg.
what is FTJ Corporation account?
FTJ, that's our new retirement provider. And so, from ICMA over to FTJ Fund. And what happened is there was a blackout period. So there was a time period when we actually had money sitting in our account for retirees that we couldn't put anywhere because there was no place to put it because there was a blackout period from when they were transferring funds. So what you'll see is a lot of funds moving into FTJ Fund at one particular time because we were holding those type of funds.
What was the total time for the blackout?
It was
9 days.
9 days, yeah.
And what was the time frame that we had allotted? It was 30.
We had 30 days
30,
to complete.
And they said about a week's time.
Yeah.
So,
But it fell over, the blackout fell over a pay period. So that's why it had to get held off and then the check issued.
yeah.
I think that's what happened.
What does FTJ stand for?
I don't know, to be honest. They just go by FTJ Fund Choice. So it's probably a consolidation of
I think
many.
they said it in the presentation.
Yeah, but I think it was a consolidation of 3 different investment firms that came together and just used the
Franklin,
firm.
Twinkle, and Jenkins, something.
That's it, you got it.
Right there. Right on it. That's who they are. Franklin, Twinkle, and Jenkins.
Okay.
Fund we chose, or that the employees chose to put their money in.
Now on page 134, we have a list of, on the right-hand side, of the invoice date and invoice due date.
Correct.
And I voted for this originally some time ago. approval of August checks, and the second line says, and authorization of a similar amount allowing for or adjusting extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of September. Action may be taken. That's on our current thing. And my problem is that when we do that, the board loses their power over the expenses. It's like the example I mentioned earlier tonight where Jack at the cemetery can't issue a check until his board approves it, and that for that month. So we go through a lot of trouble reviewing this thing and even going over very detailed things, yet the bill has already been paid. And what I'd like to do, and I don't know what this would have to come up as an agenda item another time. I went down, and August 21st was our last board meeting. 6 items, their invoice due date was earlier than that, and 12 items, they were later on this list. Some of the items were curious to me because the Internal Revenue Service, well, wait a minute. I thought on one of them, they were paid the same day that you received the invoice. The other one, there was 22 days lapse.
These are things only over 5,000 is all we requested this on, right? Is that why the line?
Is that internal revenue?
Yeah, 5,000.
Internal revenue doesn't give you an invoice.
It's due
What
upon.
you do, it's a due date.
And what the Internal Revenue Service thing, just to let you know, is withholding from employees' checks.
Oh, okay.
So if you cannot screw around with that.
No, I
That's
understand.
bad news.
You can get in big trouble.
Yes.
Any rate, the point being made that I think we can function without giving up the board's power and get rid of an authorization of a similar amount, adjusting for extraordinary budget of the board approved. And I would just like, at the next board meeting, if Kevin would give us advantages or disadvantages of keeping that, if you would.
I can.
Can you tell us tonight? Is that what you're saying?
Well, the thing is, okay.
I can give you the history.
We're going to just leave it for a board item.
Does the board want that as an agenda item on the next board meeting?
The thing is, Bill,
It's submitted in writing.
Okay, then let Bill know that.
if you,
Submit it in writing, and we
Okay.
can make it an agenda item.
the problem with that is if you may miss due dates.
Well, no, I'm thinking you could make a policy.
He wouldn't be able to give us a check register that we could approve.
Okay,
'Cause he didn't
let
write the check.
me make the proposal. I'll talk to Kevin, and then I'll put it in
Okay.
as
Then
an
we'll
agenda
decide-
item
We'll
next
decide
month.
as a board.
Yeah, sort of the oversight of the board. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, because I remember when we came up with this motion, we decided that we had to put that, it wasn't in there for years. It wasn't
No, I
in
know,
there.
it came
And
in,
we put it in there, Barbara put it in there,
right.
and because we were paying them before we were approving them.
Was that the last one you had, Bill?
Yeah, that's all I have. That's enough.
Okay, and to be quite honest, my mom was in the hospital, so
Oh, wow.
I was sitting down to start this section of it, and I wound up having to go up to the hospital, so I did not get to, although I did look through the checks, I'm just gonna say you guys caught all the ones I was gonna do, so
How's your mama doing?
she's doing good.
Great.
Cheers. Doing good. So,
I move approval of August checks as listed in the agenda.
I'll second. That was a motion, yeah.
That's an
I move to amend his motion by authorizing a similar amount, allowing or adjusting for extraordinary budget or board-approved items during the month of September.
That's listed in the agenda.
You didn't say that. You just said that you
We usually
we've
do-
always done it
authorize
We
the
usually do
checks.
say it. So, everybody in favor of the amendment?
That's what was said last month when we approved it. I think Larry was baiting a hook and a fish line to catch somebody to.
I'm waiting for a second on that.
I'll second it.
Okay, second on the amendment, okay. All in favor of the amendment as to the motion? Say aye.
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 No,
No,
Okay, passes 3-2.
we gotta show a little bit.
All
more.
in favor to the original motion as amended, say aye.
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 Passes 5-0. Okay. We are now going to do director's comments. I'm going to start with Director Flesher.
I thought we had a good meeting, as usual, got a lot of ground covered, even though we had some discussions on the various items, and I really think one of the key things that came out of this was the contract with Cedar Creek Communications. That's going to really be a big help to us.
Absolutely.
In our community relations. I'm really pleased with that.
Director Hunt.
No comments.
Okay. Director Kellogg.
Oh, I've said enough for one night, I think.
Director.
On 32, page 32, I was trying to get to it. I wanted to, I think I'm reading it right, and I just wanted it changed a little bit so that everyone else will too. It's on page 32.
iPad page 32?
Yeah,
That's going to take a little. 132 or 32?
32.
The chart?
What are we looking at?
A chart.
According to the sign over the road, there's 71% left.
I got iPad's page 32, and it's not a chart.
This one?
Oh, no, okay, it's not 32.
Water supply?
That?
No, it's the other, let's see.
The season to date.
I thought it was 32.
It pauses. Look
That's
at
this, right?
32.
Yeah, I'm wrong.
That's.
What is it
No,
you're looking
mine-
for?
I'm
mine's-
looking. Keep going. That one.
What is it? Okay, what's
Does this say August 2013? Or is it August 13?
August 13th.
August 2013 versus August 2012.
Okay. Could you put the 20s in there? Because I thought, well, what's the difference between August the 12th and August the 13th?
Okay.
It's 1 day later.
Well, that's what I thought at first. I said, no, that couldn't be. Okay. I
He
just
does taxes too.
Just keep giving me ammo. I'm on a roll tonight.
A lot of usage that one day.
Right. Okay, that was the only. The other thing is, I think it's very important the good things that the automated meters are doing, and I would like to see in the staff report an accumulation of how many different things we've helped the customers with because of them. Like how many leaks have been detected on the customer's property, how many people have saved money because they were notified, and all that. You know, I think it's a good thing for our CR.
I think the last time I talked to George, I think that
It's over
hundreds a month.
Yeah, it's over 2,000, and I think it would be a good. I think it's a good CR to show how. I mean, some people are still complaining about how much we paid for those meters. Well, Rick Hall finally left, but they were complaining, and I think that we're saving the customers so much money by doing those automated.
You know, Keith asked me the other day, I ran into him at Ace Hardware, and he says, how's the water at the cemetery? You see, at the cemetery, it had some cattle that broke a standpipe. They had no idea. It went in the air and so forth. And so I get a call from Jack at the cemetery that PID called, and you've got a water leak. So I go over and take care of it. And the water had been shooting 15 feet in the air, and it was quite a bit of water. So a couple of more weeks go by, and the cattle do it again. And yes, and so I get the same sort of calls, only I was there as soon as the call came through, and I needed to find the meter. Nobody seemed to know where the meter was for the property. And so I got excellent care from the man that came out to help with the meter location. He didn't know either. We looked at the maps. We figured it out. And then on the ID employee, and the same thing with the notifications. The reasons Keith keeps asking me is that those automatic meters that I used to complain about, you haven't heard me complain lately because they saved me some money. So, anyway.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, I wrote down what Director Duncan, were you all done?
Yes.
Okay, I wrote down what I was thinking last night. I did do this part. I wanted to thank the CRC, or the Community Relations Committee, and Cedar Creek for its hard work on moving forward and getting the community informed on what we are doing and what our plans are for the future. Apparently I plagiarized some of this next sentence because I saw it in Latanya's and Mark's photos up there. I think this will be a very useful tool in helping the community to understand why future rate increases, whether they be temporary for capital improvement projects or permanent to ensure the district's financial stability, or even both, are going to be required. So I think that was a phenomenal publication that they put out, and you guys did an excellent job. When I paired you up and threw you in that, I didn't realize I was going to get such good results. So I hope the next president will see that wisdom and
It's interesting, though.
And pair you up again.
Yeah, right.
Well, not exactly what I was looking for, but I actually am serious. I think that actually works out good. You guys have, it's good.
I've always found that if you have a person who complains about something, you put them on the board, all at once they stop complaining.
Well, that's, maybe
They work harder.
I won't say that wasn't a hidden agenda, but at this point, you guys did a fantastic job. It was...
well, they did all the work. We were basically editors.
Well, that's, you had to have given them some direction. I know that they're pretty smart cookies, but I think that was an excellent piece of work. And something we're going to be able to utilize in future boards, whether we're on it or not, are going to be able to utilize for years to come. So I think that was well-spent money. So.
Very true.
Okay, at this time, we are going to go into closed session. Those of you that wish to stay to see what we say when we come out, which will be probably pretty limited, are welcome to. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening.
You're supposed to announce what we're doing in closed session.
We are going to have conference with labor negotiators. Thank you, Larry.
Does anyone want to talk about it?
Talk about it.
No, actually, that's only on property.
Oh, is it only on property?
Yep.
Oh.
Oh, you may
Not
talk.
a comment period on.
Oh, no comment on this one.
You may talk. You may talk amongst yourselves, but we are going to adjourn into the other room for a closed session.
Right.